Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto X Melissa in My Hero Academia. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by JAYSEN and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Valley of the End, border of fire and rice countries. The young blonde shinobi stood atop the water that flowed into the lake that made up the valley floor. He stared across the way to his once friend and teammate who was now attempting to betray the village. Naruto made a promise that he would bring Sasuke back to the village, and he meant it. The battle that the two former friends fought was nearing its end. Sasuke was in his level 2 cursed form, and Naruto was drawing on the Kyuubi's power, only a tail's worth, but still formidable. To Naruto, Sasuke was his family, his brother. He wasn't just going to let him throw his life away for revenge and refused to break his promise to Sakura to bring him back. As for Sasuke, he wasn't going to let anyone or anything stand in the way of his revenge. He was willing to go as far as kill Naruto in order to gain the power to kill his brother and satisfy his thirst for power. Needless to say, this was a clash that could only end in tragedy. Not too far away, Kakashi Haddock, their Jounin sensei, was racing towards his two students, praying that he wasn't too late. He suddenly felt two massive evil chakras flaring and saw them preparing their best attacks. Kakashi couldn't move, rooted to his spot by the sheer magnitude of the power out there. As if beckoned by some unseen signal, the two combatants launched themselves toward each other, Naruto to disable and capture, Sasuke to kill. Sasuke. Naruto. Kyuubi-powered Rasengan met with a curse seal-fueled Chidori in an explosion of power. A bright light enveloped them, and a violent vortex roared to life, fueled by the clashing energies. Kakashi raced to pull his two students away from the anomaly before they were sucked inside. "Dear God, this can't be happening, please, don't let them kill each other," he prayed as he picked up speed. Naruto was struggling in two different directions. One was against Sasuke and the other was against the pull of the vortex. The Kyuubi inside of him was beginning to panic. "Kid. You must kill him if you want to live," the fox demon screamed at him. "No, I promise Sakura-chan, I'm bringing the team back alive, even if it kills me," the blonde retorted. The great fox growled at the stubbornness of its vessel. "You stubborn brat. You're going to kill us both." During their exchange, Sasuke noticed that Naruto was distracted and called to him. "Hey, loser, I'll be sending my brother to keep you company in hell. Maybe Sakura and that Hyuga wench, too. That is, after I've had my fun with them," he sneered. As he said that, he shoved his Chidori right through Naruto's chest, just missing his heart by a scant inch. He thought that it wouldn't be enough to finish off Naruto, so he threw the dying blonde into the vortex as it was closing. "Goodbye, dope," he sneered, with a smirk of absolute evil. Kakashi what he had just heard and saw from the Rookie of the Year and last Ichigo. "No, not Naruto," he whispered. The copy nin quickly remastered himself and swiftly knocked the prodigy unconscious with a strong blow to his head. He glared down at Sasuke, fighting down the urge to kill him. "No, I don't want to make Naruto's death meaningless. Your final mission was a success. I'm so proud of you, Naruto," he told himself sadly. He set to work, binding Sasuke up in wire and slapping a stasis seal on him for transport back to the village. Before heading back, he picked up the crystal necklace that he received from the goddess Hokage herself that had fallen to the ground where he vanished. He thought that she would like something to remember him by. Miley Temple Revealing Ritual Room. It is a very special event in the life of any priestess of the war god, Miley. This ceremony, the ritual of revealing, would show to the priestess the hero she would be bound to serve. This day, a young woman named Melissa was undergoing the sacred ceremony. She had dark blonde hair, was fairly tall and around 20 years of age, had violet eyes, and was altogether a very attractive young woman. Watching from the fringe of the pool, Jenny, the high priestess of the Order of Miley, oversaw the whole process. She was a taller older woman in her early 40s with long reddish hair, light green eyes and a motherly countenance, along with being a seasoned adventurer. She hoped that the ceremony was going well. "Miley, great and powerful Lord of War, please reveal to me the hero I am bound to serve," Melissa prayed softly. She heard a voice calling to her, "Your hero shall be from a foreign land. He shall be one who has risen above a lifetime pain and suffering, remaining strong for one so young." Before she could wonder about what was revealed to her, a violent vortex roared into existence in the air in front of the statue of their deity. The vortex spat out a strange boy, no older than his early teens, who fell into the water back first. She screamed out when he fell, causing Jenny to see what went wrong. The elder woman wasn't prepared for what she saw. The boy floating in the water was mortally wounded. He had many cuts and lacerations and a gaping hole just a hair away from his heart, which was pumping out blood at a lethal pace. She was even more surprised that he was still alive, let alone conscious. The boy had on a strange orange jumpsuit of sorts with a headband that was fitted with a metal plate which bore a strange spiral leaf insignia. On his face, he had peculiar whisker-shaped markings. He opened his eyes briefly to see where he was. Jenny had never seen such a young person so badly wounded or with eyes that told of as much pain and determination as his did. He reached out to Melissa with a bloody hand which she smacked away in fear. "Help me," he gasped, then collapsed, blood spreading in the water around him at an alarming rate. The young acolyte was frozen in fright. His eyes were a burning, bloody crimson, and his outstretched hand had claws. He had a somewhat feral appearance and to her eyes screamed of evil. She looked over and was shocked to see Lady Jenny rushing to this thing's aid. The elder priestess was frantically checking for his pulse and trying to staunch his bleeding in vain. Jenny's eyes flew wide with alarm as his breathing ceased and his heart was beginning to fail. She quickly began a healing spell as she turned to Melissa. "Melissa, summon more healers and medics," she ordered, but Melissa stayed rooted to her spot, now fully clothed. "Oh Melissa, now. He is going to die if nothing is done," she ordered again, spurring the young priestess into action. She chanted an high-level healing spell in an attempt to save the boy's life. Miley Temple guest room. After hours of medical treatment, the boy was stable enough to last the night, though there were couple of times that they nearly lost him. One thing puzzled the elder woman. The boy, by all rights, should have died, but by some miracle, he pulled through. All of his wounds told her seasoned eyes that he had been in a battle of unspeakable proportions and that he refused to give up. Jenny also felt a slight demonic aura coming from her young blonde guest. A few other priestesses felt it too, but Jenny stayed their hands. She told them that it would be rude and that he should be given the chance to explain. Jenny saw what looked like an intricate seal in a language and text she was unfamiliar with on the boy's abdomen, so she contacted someone who might know. She also had a good look at the items he had in his pouches and holster, none of which she had ever seen before. He had various small pills and scrolls, at least a dozen star-shaped weapons that she could only guess were throwing weapons, a spool of thin yet very strong metal wire, a few small tags with strange text on it, and 6 diamond-shaped knives with rings on the handles, also razor-sharp. Harwis, the royal mage and director of the Sorcerers Guild in Ofen, was an old friend of hers. He was very well versed in several arcane languages and texts, so she thought he might be able to tell what the boy is and where he might hail from. In the early morning, Naruto woke up slowly, clutching his chest. An apprentice priestess whom Jenny assigned to watch over him noticed his stirring. "Ooh, where am I? Who are you?" he asked her groggily, trying to get his bearings. "Oh. You're awake. I'll just go get Lady Jenny," she told him as she got out of her chair. "By the way, my name is Denise Fairwater. You are inside the temple of the war god, Miley. Here is some water." She paused, fishing for a name. "Oh ahehe. The name's Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet ya. And thanks for the water." He greeted shyly with a bright blush. He saw what she looked like. She was a year or two older than him, had forest green eyes, light red hair pulled back into a braid, and slight freckles on her face that made her look fairly cute. She giggled at his bashful reaction. "You're welcome, Naruto. I'll be back in a few moments with Lady Jenny." He's kinda cute with those whiskers and his blue eyes. I can't believe Miss Melissa called him evil, she wondered as she went to find the head priestess. Naruto took in his surroundings. Where the hell am I? I've never heard names like that before. And what's up with this room? No electricity, running water, he thought to himself. As he moved to get out of the bed, he felt the Kyuubi try to contact him. "What the hell do you want, Fox?" he asked in an annoyed tone. "You stupid little brat. You nearly got us both killed by that damned Ichigo." The demon roared from the confines of its cage. "Whatever, we're still alive, aren't we? Kid, please don't take chances like that with me still inside you. If you die, I die. I feel like living a little longer, thank you." It shot back snidely. "Hey, Fox, do you know where we are?" "I sure as hell don't." The Kyuubi thought for a moment, then replied. "Well, we were pulled into a dimensional tier, there's no telling what sort of world we're in, but if this room is any indication, the technology isn't as good as ours is. By the way," the monster fox said, changing its tone to a more sly one. "I saw you checking out that young vixen. Giving up on that pink-haired head case. If so, good for you. You're beginning to grow up. From what I can smell, this place has nothing but females and not a dog in the bunch, either. You really hit the mother load this time, kid." The great demon teased its host while almost being giddy at the thought of there being attractive females around. Naruto sputtered indignantly and began to yell, "Shut your pie hole, you walking flea Kano. Don't talk about Sakura-chan like that." "Sure, kid. Sure." "Oh, yeah? I'll sure your ass. Whatever, shorty. I hate you, you know that. I know it's a talent. Up, look alive, kid. You've got visitors. One of them has a level of spiritual power that's through the roof for a human." It told its host as it kicked him out to the mind space. Naruto snapped back to reality just in time for Jenny to come in, accompanied by Karwas. Karwas reminded him of old man Sarutobi in a way that he just couldn't put his finger on. He then looked to Jenny and found that she felt comforting in a way. He noticed that she was flanked by two younger women in similar uniforms. The girl who was there before was there again and winked at him, making him blush heavily. Karwas noticed this and chuckled. He walked over to his bedside and sat in the chair there. "Hello there, young man. My name is Karwas, the royal mage of this kingdom and headmaster of the Sorcerers Guild." The old man introduced himself with a kind smile. "He reminds me of old man Hokage," he wondered with an appraising look. "Is there something wrong, my boy?" Karwas asked. "Ah. And no. It's just that you remind me of someone," he trailed off looking away. "A good person, I hope." He joked with the boy. "He seems nice, I might be able to tell him," he hoped. "Why yeah, he was like a grandpa to me. He died a few months ago," he revealed to him, as well as telling him about how it happened and about the world he came from. Karwas and Jenny shared looks of sympathy. Here was this boy, no older than 12 or 13 at the most, had been through war and more than most seasoned knights and adventurers, but remained strong through it all. It spoke very highly of his inner strength and character. They asked him how he came to the temple, and he told them of his final mission, to retrieve a traitor and to prevent him from falling into enemy hands. Naruto was given an additional mission, to bring him back to the girl he was in love with himself. Jenny knew then and there that Naruto was very special boy. He was willing to give up the girl he loved to make her happy. It spoke to the elder priestess of a level of selflessness, honor and courage that she had very rarely seen, ever. Even King Ridgel when he was younger didn't measure up to the young blonde before her and his only boy. She was more convinced than ever that he was meant to be a hero to be served by a priestess. Finally, Jenny got down to the business that Karwas had come for. "Naruto," she asked in a soft voice that put all of his fears at ease. "What can you tell us about the strange seal on your stomach?" she finished. This was the question he dreaded. He didn't want these nice people to be afraid of him, but he felt that he at least owed them an explanation in return for saving his life. He sucked in a deep breath and took the plunge. 13 years ago, a demon called the Kyuubi no Kitsune, or the nine-tailed demon fox, attacked my village. The ninja there all fought to keep it from destroying the village, but suffered massive casualties. Finally, the leader at the time, the fourth Hokage, came up with a way to stop the demon. He sealed it away into a newborn child. The demon was too powerful to seal into an object and couldn't be killed by humans. He told them as he paused for breath. The technique was called the Shiki Fuin, or Death Demon Consuming Seal. This called the death god to our plane and pulled out the soul of the demon, sealing it into the baby. But the price was the caster's own soul. The fourth sacrificed his own life to save the village. His dying wish was that the child be treated as a hero for keeping the demon at bay, but he trailed off, his gaze going along with it and a sad expression to match. Jenny finished it for him. She could already guess what happened. "But they didn't, did they?" she asked him softly. Naruto couldn't hold back his tears as he shook his head in confirmation. "And that child was you, wasn't it?" Karwas asked him in a grandfatherly manner. Naruto choked back a sob. "My life from day one they wanted me dead. Old man Sarutobi made a law to try to keep me safe, but people ignored it. He made another law that kept them from mentioning the fox ever again, but they got their kids to hate me, too. Then, I got thrown out of the orphanage when I was 4. I lived on my own since I was 6, came through the academy on my own. My team sensei didn't want to train me, so I learned everything on my own. He just focused on the guy I nearly died to bring back. I doubt they even miss me," he finished, now sobbing freely. The room's other occupants were literally floored with what they just learned about their new guest. The two young priestesses couldn't even begin to imagine how he could have survived for so long, and Denise couldn't help but sob, even clenching her fists in rage in light of the boy's nightmare of a life. Karwas could tell that the boy's willpower was more than enough to keep such a powerful being at bay, and actually felt a glimmer of pride for the boy that he shouldn't have felt. He would definitely become a fine young man. Jenny forgot that she was talking to a young boy momentarily, but she quickly gathered the boy into her arms, rubbing his back in a comforting manner. She could understand the boy's vulnerability and felt her maternal instincts kick in. "Shhh, it's okay, Naruto. We don't hate you. We couldn't possibly hate you for bearing such an awful burden so well. You have the nature of a true hero inside of you. The truest that I've ever seen or could ever hope to see in my lifetime. I am very proud of you," she assured him. "Melissa doesn't know how lucky she is. Miley has chosen this boy as her hero. It was no accident that he was brought to us when he was. This is destiny at work. If I were younger, I would be proud to serve him as my hero." Naruto stayed awake long enough to hear her say that, then fell asleep in her arms. The elder woman laid him down gently and kissed him on his forehead. "Sleep well, young Naruto," she told him on a motherly tone of voice. She then turned to Denise. "Can you watch over him while he sleeps? she asked, the tone in her voice almost imploring her to accept. Jenny didn't know how, but the boy had somehow become important to her. She never had any children, but she could almost see the young blonde shinobi as a sort of surrogate child. Of course, Lady Jenny. It would be an honor. She announced proudly, while casting said blonde a smile. After what she had just learned, the boy would amount to a hero of legendary proportions. She sat down in the chair that Carwis had been in and placed a cold cloth on his forehead. Everyone else left the room to let the boy get some more rest. Carwis gave her his professional opinion on the seal. I believe that his willpower keeps the demon at bay and that he is safe to be around. That seal is a real work of art, the work of a master. It's not even magic-based, but still ludicrously effective. I would love to study this some more. When he awakens, could you have him come to the guild to see me? He asked his longtime friend and former teammate. Of course. But, you know, one of my priestesses was performing her ritual of revealing when he appeared. She was told that the next man she saw would be the hero that she is to serve. You know what this means. Carwis sighed. He knew exactly what that meant. Yes, I know. But it would be best to ask him what he wants. He most likely doesn't know about our ways and customs. Could you teach him about them and see what he thinks first? Yes, I could do that. I think he deserves the chance to start over after all he has been through. But that settled, the pair continued talked about random things while they waited for him to awaken again. Konoha, Hokage's office. The goddamn Hokage sat at her desk, cradling a bottle of sake in one hand and holding a picture that she took with Naruto, Shizune, Jiraiya and Taunton on their way back to Konoha. She gazed sadly at the picture, some tears coming to her eyes unbidden. Stupid Gaki, you were the only reason I took this damn job. I loved you, Naruto. Like I would love a son if I had one. Why did that damn necklace have to claim another loved one? I miss you. As she fell into another restless slumber, she remembered all that happened in the past 48 hours. All of the members of the retrieval team returned alive, all except one. Naruto was still out there. Tsunade waited at the gates for him, along with his teammate Sakura Haruno. She's probably only waiting for the Uchiha, she thought in disgust. They didn't have to wait long. They soon saw that Kakashi Haddock was trudging up the path to the village gates, but he was one person short. Sakura raced forward. Where's Sasuke-kun? She asked, completely forgetting her other teammate. Kakashi met her with a scowl. The traitor is right here. He snapped. He looked at her and waited. Well. What about your other teammate? What about Naruto? Sakura looked puzzled. Huh? What are you talking about, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi didn't have time to answer that before Tsunade ran forward. Where's Naruto? What happened to him? Kakashi remained silent with a hangdog look on his face. Damn it, Haddock, answer me. She roared, lifting him off of the ground by his vest. He simply pulled out the crystal necklace that was left behind where he disappeared. I'm sorry. This is all that's left. He muttered sadly, his voice wavering as he told the angry Hokage about the battle at the Valley of the End, as well as Naruto's fate. The mighty Hokage fell to her knees as she held the necklace. No, not again, please, no, not my Naru-chan, too, she whimpered as she began to sob openly. Kakashi straightened himself and spoke, Hokage-sama, I'll be taking the traitor to the Anbu holding cells. Naruto tried to do as little damage as possible in his apprehension of Sasuke Uchiha, so hospitalization will not be necessary. The copy nin stated coldly. But Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun couldn't have done that to Naruto. I know. You know nothing, young lady. Tsunade snarled at Sakura, cutting her off. That little bastard murdered your other teammate. He nearly got the entire team and 2 of my jounin killed due to his selfishness. He was going to join up with the very person that killed the Sandaime, my sensei and father figure during my younger years. He killed Naruto. No, this can't be true, she whimpered. It is true, Sakura. I witnessed the killing blow myself and he flung the body into an unknown vortex afterwards. He knew exactly what he was doing. Kakashi told her. Sakura could only sob. Naruto gave his life to bring Sasuke back. He kept his word, even at the highest cost. Sasuke killed, no, murdered him. She thought angrily. I'm such a selfish person, I begged Naruto to bring him back to me, he gave his life to make it happen, she cried and sobbed as she ran home. He will be tried as a traitor to this village. If I have my way, he will die. I will do it myself if need be. Tsunade answered, fury evident in her tone. The next day, the village council convened on the fate of Sasuke. Kakashi had given his testimonial of what happened at the Valley of the End, leaving out nothing. He summoned Pakin, who verified what was told to the council. The copy nin had a bad feeling about how they were taking this. They didn't even care that Sasuke had killed a fellow Konoha shinobi in cold blood and tried to defect to one of the worst criminals in the village's history, not to mention the murderer of the Sandaime. Their minds were already made up, regardless of how the mission went. One of the elders, Hamura, stepped forward to deliver the verdict. We the council find Uchiha Sasuke not guilty of treason and murder. We believe that Uchiha-sen was kidnapped and was under the influence of the cursed seal when he fought with the Uzumaki. He said, spitting out Naruto's name with disgust. Furthermore, we will be setting up brides for Uchiha-sen to build up his clan. He requested the heiresses to the Hyuga and Yamanaka clans and the daughter of the Haruno family to be his brides and carriers of his children. We will expect your cooperation in this matter. The shinobi side of the council blew up in rage over the blatant miscarriage of justice. Inoichi Yamanaka shouted out, so the Uchiha is going free after what he did and you want my daughter to bear his accursed spawn just because he demands it. He was backed up by Hiashi Hyuga. I refuse to hand over my daughters to that traitor. Furthermore, I move that a suitable funeral is held for the young Uzumaki, whose loyalty to this village has been proven to be above and beyond the call of duty in completing this crucial mission. His bravery and courage saved us from the wrath of the Tsunade Jinchuriki, where the Uchiha cowered in fear. He taught my daughter to be strong where I could not. He helped my nephew Niji overcome his hatred and brought my family back to me. He has proven himself to be a true hero. An honorable funeral and adding his name to the memorial stone would be the least we could do for him. He finished, with all of the major clans clamoring in agreement. I agree. That pup has shown us what real loyalty is time and time again. He still remained faithful after all of the abuse he endured at your hands. Tsuminyazuka snarled, pointing to the much larger civilian council. If the boy was half as dangerous as you made him out to be, we'd all be dead right now. He proved himself to be a valuable asset to our shinobi forces during the invasion. Shikaku Nara added. Amura merely snorted in derision. The decision stands. It is only murder when you kill a human being, which a Jinchuriki isn't. He was Konoha's sacrifice to die as we, the council, see fit. He will not be allowed a funeral within the confines of the village. He will have a funeral, damn you. By my authority as the Godame Hokage, he was a ninja under my command and died accomplishing a sanctioned mission. She snarled at the elder before calming down and burying her face in her hands. Considering that we hid his past and true heritage from him, denying him his birthrights, he deserves that much from us at least. She added miserably, her guilt mounting. One of the civilian council members was puzzled by this and spoke out. What do you mean, true heritage, what is this about? He asked. Tsunade smirked. She still had an ace in the hole. This information was classified and very few knew about it. In fact, only 2 people alive know about this secret. Seeing as how Naruto is dead, it no longer matters. Naruto's true name is Naruto Namikaze. She told them, pausing to let it sink in. Tsume was the first to speak up. You mean that pup was really? Yes, he was. He was the son of my student and the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, as well as my godson. Jiraiya announced from the doorway of the meeting room. Everyone turned to the Toad Sennin. I just got finished sealing up that curse mark in that brat's chakra network. He won't be going anywhere for a while. Another council member shouted out in outrage. What have you done, you fool? You can't do that to the Uchiha, he would have said more, but an angry Sannin pinned him to the wall, lifting the fat man off of the ground by his throat. I'll do what is necessary to ensure that the traitor doesn't get away. Do not presume to order me around about matters you know nothing of. That brat murdered my godson. In my opinion, he got off easy. I would have tortured him to death. Slowly. He growled as he let the man go. The shinobi council reflected on what they just learned. Hiashi stood to speak. He was the most noble of us all. Yet somehow I knew it. He said, letting out a small smile. He looked just like Minato, he even had the same smile and personality. When I saw him at the Chunin exams, I thought that Minato had been reincarnated in that boy. Tsunade spoke out next. She felt that it was time to tell them just what the young blonde meant to her. I saw him like a son, the son I could never have, but always wanted. I loved that little brat so much I took this goddamn job for his sake. He convinced me to come back and take it. He gave my life back to me and gave me something to live for. That little son of a bitch Uchiha took my baby away from me. The slug Sannin roared in despair and rage, the rage of a mother who lost her child. They all started to back away from Tsunade. After all, an upset Tsunade was more dangerous than Orochimaru could ever be. Was it that serious, Hokage-sama? Tsuminyazuka asked softly. Being a mother herself, she could sympathize. If Kiba or Hana were killed, she would be just as upset. I loved him as much as I gave birth to him myself, she sobbed. All of the shinobi clan heads bowed their heads. They all had children of their own, and they would be just as upset if their children were killed off on that mission. 2 of them almost were. Chaozu and Hiashi stood shoulder to shoulder, looked at each other and nodded. We, the Shinobi Council, move that Sasuke Uchiha be put to death for the murder of Naruto Namikaze, treason, and attempted murder of Choji Akimichi and Niji Hyuga, as well as assault on Sakura Haruno. This sent the civilian portion of the council into an uproar. They all demanded that Sasuke be turned loose and that all charges be dropped. Danzo stepped forward, taking advantage of the situation. I propose that this matter is put to a vote. All those in favor of this sentencing, raise your hands. As he said this, Homura, Danzo himself, and all of the civilian reps stayed silent. All of the shinobi clan heads raised theirs, including Elder Kaharu, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. All opposed and in favor of a full pardon and the bridal program. The entire civilian council, Danzo and Homura raised their hands. Danzo was licking his chops at the possibility of getting an Uchiha into his root program. Homura was just glad to be rid of the demon child. Kaharu looked at her former teammate in disgust. I am so ashamed of you. Hiruzen and Minato are spinning in their graves right now. The old woman spat as she stormed from the room. You may have won the vote, but I will still tell everyone the truth. See if I don't. Tsunade bowed as she made her way back to her office. Flashback end. The rest of the rookie teams, the Suna siblings, Team Guy and their senseis, had all gathered in her office to hear about the results to the mission. Shikamaru was still beating himself up about the results so far, and he still didn't know about Naruto. Sakura and Kakashi knew, but wouldn't talk to anyone. The two of them were so ridden with guilt that no one had even seen them in the past 2 days. Ino looked nervously at the Godin waiting for her to speak. Hokage-sama. What's wrong? Why were we called here? Tsunade looked up at the assembled shinobi with bloodshot eyes, as if she had been crying for a while. She wiped her eyes and went into Hokage mode. I know that the results of the mission have not been released yet, but I will reveal them now. Shikamaru Nara, your first Chunin mission was a success. Sasuke Uchiha has been successfully apprehended by Naruto Uzumaki and brought back to the village. Nara looked up, then around. But, where is he? Where's Naruto? Tsunade clenched her fists and the remnants of Team 7 tensed. Naruto Uzumaki is dead. He gave his life to make the mission a success. Sasuke Uchiha is one who killed him. She had to stop there or she would lose control again. The rest of the people assembled were shocked into silence. The senseis all closed their eyes and bowed their heads in respect, with Kurenai tearing up a bit. Hinata looked horrified. And then no, Naruto-kun is dead. Then she slumped to the ground in a heap, overcome with grief. Hibba was next. Naruto is dead. That bastard Uchiha, I'll kill him myself. He growled in rage. Ino fell to her knees. Sasuke-kun murdered Naruto. Naruto gave up his life to bring him back and I was always so mean to him. The blonde girl began to sob. The most surprising reaction was that of Gaara. He saved me and I couldn't save him, he told himself. Regret and sorrow for another person was something foreign to him, but he felt them nonetheless. Tsunade called for their attention again, just as Hinata was brought back around. I'm not done yet. There was a major secret about Naruto that I feel you should know. First, is the truth about the Kyuubi. She started as she told them the sad truth of the Jinchurikis and the truth about Naruto and his life. Gaara was saddened even more than before. He was more like me than I ever thought. He choked out, acutely crying for his fallen fellow Jinchuriki. Gaara actually shed tears for his fallen brother. Hinata felt something foreign as well. She felt anger, pure rage at how Naruto had been treated his whole life, but amazed that he never complained about. Sakura felt even lousier than before. Naruto had to live though a nightmare that he was forced to call his life, bear this horrifying burden, and she had been nothing but cruel to him. He gave his life to keep his promise to her, regardless of how he felt personally. He brought him back to me even though he wanted me for himself. He loved me and I hurt him so badly. Now, I'll never get the chance to say that I'm sorry. I'm such a bitch. Lee gripped his Konoha headband so hard that he bent it and he ripped it from his waist. I cannot fight for a village that has committed such nightmarish sins against someone they should owe their very lives to. I resign. He muttered coldly as he threw it to the floor. Why, you can't mean that, can you? Tenten asked him. Yes, I do. He and I were both orphans, both dead lasts, and both had big dreams and the drive to reach them, to make them a reality. We were so much alike, the spandex-clad nin choked out. I stepped up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto-kun wouldn't want you to quit. He kept on fighting for us all, regardless of how the village treated him. He never quit, and neither should you, Lee. Instead, try to honor him by achieving your dream. He told his carbon copy student in a rare moment of clarity and wisdom. The spandex-clad Jounin greatly admired Naruto's drive and ambition. Guy could clearly see that he had massive potential and wished he could have helped Naruto at least a little bit as a thank you for inspiring Lee. He knew that Naruto was forced to fight his battles alone, but he faced it with a determination that had rarely been seen before. He never flinched, backed down or looked back. He just kept moving forward and keeping the faith. He died for a village that hated him, but he faced it like a man should, and for that, he has my undying respect. He knew what it was like to bear an unwanted sea even more than I do, and he never let it stop him. He will always hold a place of honor among the Hyuga clan. Niji vowed. Tsunade held her head up to silence them. I also called you here to tell you all that I will personally be holding a funeral for him next week. I would like you all to come and also hire you all to prevent any interference or sabotage. She told them. All of the teams agreed to do it. The senseis led their teams out of the office and to start preparations for the final farewell to the blonde that touched their hearts. Tsunade prepared a missive to send to Spring Country to inform Princess Koyuki of Naruto's death in the line of duty. She knew that the sovereign was rather fond of him, as well as boss Jiracho. The Wasabi clan boss had taken a shine to the young blonde ball of energy and would miss him dearly. She had heard about Naruto's first C-rank mission in Wave, so she sent out a missive to Tazuna and his family to attend. They were also told the truth about the boy. Next was a message to Takigakure. Their leader, Shibuki, owed Naruto a huge debt for changing him from a coward into the hero and leader that his village needed. A week had passed and the day of the funeral had come. The civilian council had told the populace that the demon was dead and they never stopped celebrating. They even looted his apartment and burned all of his belongings that they could find in the middle of the village. Sakura was disgusted with her parents, who were among those who celebrated Naruto's death. How could you be so heartless? Sakura, why do you defend that little monster? Her mother demanded. Because he protected me and always encouraged me. He protected the whole village from that monster his whole life, and people like you tried to make my generation hate him for something he had no control over. She spat at her parents. Well, get over it. We've decided to enroll you into the Uchiha bridal program. Next week, you are going down to the Uchiha district and you are going to bear an Uchiha child. Her mother squealed in glee. The woman felt that if her daughter were to be chosen as a bride, she would never have to lift a finger again in her life. Sakura was understandably outraged. I can't believe that you would have me marry the traitor who murdered my teammate and friend. She bellowed. But Sakura, I thought that you liked Sasuke-sama. Her father questioned her, puzzled. No, I won't let that monster touch me. Find someone else to carry his evil spawn because I refuse. She seethed at them before storming up the stairs to her room to get ready for the funeral. The guests for the funeral began to arrive in the village with their entourages. Boss Jiracho was the first to arrive and he had brought Idate along with him. Idate had been released from the missing nin list and properly discharged from service, enabling him to travel freely. Idate felt that he owed Naruto a debt of honor and repaid it by coming to pay his last respects. Jiracho was saddened that such a promising young man was cut down before his time. Seemingly right behind them was Shibuki of Takigakure and his escorts. He felt grateful that Naruto instilled into him the nature of a true hero and defeated Suyin for him. His escort, a young woman named Fu, approached Tsunade and offered her condolences. She was puzzled as to why this girl would grieve for someone that she barely knew. Her response was simple. Because I am just like him. I am the vessel of the Shichibi. We Jinchuriki grieve for our own. Surprisingly, more shinobi from different villages began to show up. From Kumo came the Nibi and Hachibi vessels, Yujito and Karabi. From Iwa came the Yonbi and Gobi vessels, Raushi and Han. Finally, from Kiri came the Sanbi and Rakubi, Yugura and Rakuro. For the first time, all of the remaining Jinchuriki were assembled in one place to mourn the loss of one of their own. Even if they never really met their fallen brother, their demons felt the disappearance of the Kyuubi and believed it to be dead. Their villages all had at least some intel on Naruto, being a Jinchuriki himself, not to mention carrying the most powerful Bijuu in the world inside of him. The sight of the supposed enemy ninja mourning the loss of her son brought Tsunade to tears. They all listened to Tsunade as the beautiful Hokage told them the tale of Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Needless to say, they were all speechless and enraged. Even the laid-back Karabi had to hold himself back from going postal. Koyuki Haim was the next to arrive. The young blonde held a very special place in her heart as her hero and Knight of the Snow. She was also outraged that the villagers were so cruel to him. She felt that no demon would have saved her and her country the way he did. The young princess vowed that a memorial would be erected in her country on the palace grounds to her hero, one that would stand for all time. Her escort was none other than Fubuki Kakioku, a Yuki-nin that used to work for her uncle. The pink-haired woman had survived the blast that was caused by her chakra armor and had sworn her services to the princess, now queen, of Snow Country. From what she learned of Naruto, he was a good kid and didn't deserve the life that was thrust upon him. She hoped that the next world would be kinder to him than this one was. Next was the daimyo of Wave and Tazuna himself, along with Tsunami and Inari. Since they were still recovering from the damage Gato had done, Jiraiya and Kakashi themselves provided them with an escort to the village, free of charge. The daimyo felt that the Uzumaki boy demonstrated what it meant to be a hero and deserved his respect for saving his country. Tazuna and his family had brought a handsome handmade casket. It was one of Tazuna's finest creations. Inari cried his eyes out for his Ani-chan and cursed Sasuke for taking him away. They knew that there was no body to bury, so Tsunade laid her crystal necklace inside the casket, wishing she could see the face of the boy she considered her baby one last time. She had to be helped away from the altar by an equally upset Jiraiya. This was the first time the public had seen the two mighty Sannin shed tears. Shizune came up to bid farewell to the boy she had all but adopted as her kid brother. She truly loved the boy, as he always somehow managed to brighten her day. Jiraiya and Tsunade had called out their summons to say goodbye. Gamabunta had brought his two sons with him to say goodbye to their bro. The great Toad boss himself wanted Naruto's name to be honored alongside his father's on Myabakizen Mountain, the Toad domain. Ever since Naruto learned to summon, Gamakichi had become one of Naruto's best and only friends. He often summoned him, they always hung out, played pranks, or played together, and he would miss the human boy who became like a member of his family. Tsuyu felt that losing him was a great loss. She felt attached to him, almost the same way Tsunade did. Tsuyu was always the maternal sword. Without warning, the two Toad elders, Fukasaku and Shima, arrived to at least say goodbye to the boy who held so much of their grandson's respect. Hearing stories of Naruto's deeds and exploits, they had wanted to meet him for some time now. Koyuki made her way up to the casket that should have contained the body of her hero. Naruto, you taught me that I needed to stop running and face reality. I was acting so spoiled and selfish when I told you that you didn't know anything about pain or loss, but you were the most tortured soul of them all, and you still didn't let that stop you from moving forward, and you never cried for yourself, only others. She choked out, reaching into the pocket of her robes and pulled out her tears, placing the bottle into the casket. For the boy who cried all of his tears for everyone else, leaving none for himself. Goodbye, my brave little hero. I hope to see you, Sandayu, and my father again when my time in this world is up. Gucci and Aya Michiraku paid their final respects to their best and favorite customer. Tucci thought of the boy as a nephew and Ayam her baby brother. They would miss him coming in and downing jaw-dropping amounts of ramen along with his stories. They announced that Naruto's usual miso pork will now be called the Uzumaki special in his honor. Next was the Hyuga clan. Hiashi told of how Naruto reunited his family and helped Hinata find herself and grow stronger. Hanabi never really knew him, but from what she heard from her father, he was a great person. Coming from her father, this was serious. He very rarely gave out praise to anyone, especially to someone outside of the clan. Hinata broke into tears, knowing that she would never see him again, and vowed that Sasuke would pay dearly for this. The two generations of the Ino Shikacho trio filed in next. Ino cried and said that she was sorry. She wished she had another chance to get to know him, and she would have given him a chance with her. As she stepped away, she kissed the coffin. Naruto-kun, wherever you are, I hope you felt that. I'll miss you. Chaoji and Shikamaru grieved the loss of their friend. Chaoji placed the last chip in his bag into the coffin, and Shikamaru placed his favorite shogi pieces inside. Then came Team Guy. Guy placed a copy of his own suit into the coffin, Lee placed his old headband inside, and Tenten placed her lucky kunai next to it, out of respect for the deceased genin, that taught her that no one is perfect. Iruka followed them up and placed Naruto's old goggles that he rescued from the fire inside, hoping that his little brother would find the happiness and peace that had eluded him his whole life in the next. Team Kurenai came up to the casket next. Kurenai shook her head in sorrow. Naruto-kun, you knew what true suffering was, yet you gave everything to help others. I hope that the next life treats you better. Biba walked up after his sensei, with a bandaged Akamaru on his shoulder. Why you? You were always fun planning a prank or telling a good joke. I'm gonna miss you, Naruto. With that, Akamaru let out a long howl, telling all how he felt. Shino came up the casket and peered inside. Even though there's no body, I can still send you off properly, he said, releasing a small cloud of butterflies. There. You have an escort to heaven now. Good luck up there. I'll see you there when my time here is done. Those were the most words anyone had heard the silent Abiram say, but they were hauntingly appropriate. They could have sworn they heard him sniffle a bit when he made his way back. Enko walked up to the coffin after teammate. You know, you and I weren't all that different. We both put our lives on the line for a village that hates us. I hope that you went to a better place than this hellhole. I hope I'll see you again when it's my time to go. Ibiki followed her up to the altar to say his goodbye. Naruto was one of the only genin he recommended for Chunin. His explanation was that he showed the courage to step into the unknown if necessary. Naruto also had a hand in reuniting him with his brother, Idate. He also vowed to get as much info out of the Uchiha brat as he could before he broke him, council be damned. Asuma, Konohamaru, and Yuden made their way up to the dais. Asuma put his trench knives and his lucky Zippo inside the coffin. He remembered when Naruto was real little that he was fascinated by his lighter. He was also planning on teaching Naruto to use knives like his own someday. He saw Naruto as a nephew like Konohamaru and wanted him on his team. If that would have happened, maybe this would have been avoided. Mogi followed them up to the altar with her grandmother and village elder, Kaharu. She wept for the loss of the one she saw as a caring big brother, one who she could talk to and confide in, and even harbored a small crush on him. She reached up and untied her pigtails, letting her hair flow freely and placed the ribbons that held them into the coffin. They were a gift from Naruto not long before the Chunin exams, and she cherished them greatly. Taharu watched her young granddaughter with sympathy and understanding, as she felt the same way when Tsurutobi died. She was also ashamed of herself for believing that Naruto was a demon, but felt that helping make this funeral happen was her first step towards forgiveness. Konohamaru, Mogi, and Yuden each placed their goggles into the casket, a sign of respect for their fallen leader. The young Tsurutobi vowed that he'd become the Rakudame in Naruto's place and make the village into one that his Nai-chan would be proud of. Gaara walked up to the coffin his brother was supposed to be in and bowed his head. "My brother, we both knew the same pain, yet we were so different. Your pain forged you into a strong and kind person, the kind of person I want to be. You gave me a goal, a new purpose. I will take your dream onto myself and become the Kazekage. I will lead my people with the compassion that you taught to me," he vowed solemnly. Temari and Kankuro gave their thanks for bringing their baby brother back to them and making them a family again. Many others came forth to offer their final farewell until finally Team 7 came up. Kakashi came up and placed a peculiar three-pronged kunai that his sensei gave to him into the coffin. He said that it just felt right and that his sensei would have wanted it that way. Finally, Sakura came up to the coffin. "Naruto, I know that I always thought you were annoying and stupid. I was just a stupid, spoiled little girl who couldn't see the truth even though it was staring me in the face. When Kakashi-sensei came back without you, at first I never noticed that you weren't there. But after I heard how you gave your life to keep your promise to, it made me think. You always liked me, but you wanted to bring him back to make me happy. That told me one thing. You didn't like me. You loved me with all of your heart. After I heard about how you have been keeping the Kyuubi trapped your entire life and how this village wanted you dead for it, my parents included, I couldn't stand it anymore. You must have thought that if you told anyone that you would be alone for the rest of your life, forever unwanted and unloved. But I want you to know that I would have married you. Goodbye, I love you. I always will and I'll never forget you," she finished with a whisper. Hinata heard her confession and instead of being furious, she wrapped the pink-haired girl in the strongest embrace she could muster. "I loved him too. I know your pain and I won't let you bear it alone." Sasuke and most of the civilian council showed up without warning to the funeral. "What is this? I killed the demon and all of you fools act like he was actually worth something," he sneered at the crowd. Amura stepped forward. "I thought I said that the filthy little demon wasn't authorized to receive a funeral, Tsunade. Throwing his body in a ditch would have sufficed." Everyone turned to them, insanely pissed off that this traitor not only had the nerve to show his face, but also insult the memory of their young hero. The Jinchuriki were enraged that he insulted their fallen brother as well as their kind. They all got into position to attack, with Yugura and Kurabi readying their swords. Both generations of Ino Shikacho teams practically snarled at him and the council, their eyes alive with rage and hate. The Hyuga that attended all activated their Byakugan, even little Hanabi. If Naruto was as great as her father told her, he was worth fighting for. Hinata was filled to the brim with fury and was just a hair away from killing the traitor as he so deserved. Anko and Ibiki both shared looks of disgust for the Uchiha traitor. They both wanted to play with him so badly they could taste it. Iruka had never felt so much anger and hatred in his whole life. "That little bastard killed the last of the family I had left," the normally gentle schoolteacher snarled mentally. Koyuki and Fubuki were also filled with anger. Just who did this brat think he was, barging into a funeral and insulting the dead? Fubuki was flipping through some hand seals for ice jutsu but was stopped by Koyuki's hand on her shoulder. Sasuke looked at the crowd and saw the three girls he chose for his bride standing together. "There you are. Let's go. I won't have any wives of mine mourning the dope." He sneered at them while he went to grab Sakura by the arm. Sakura slapped his hand away, then slapped him across the face with all of her might. "Don't touch me, you disgusting traitor. I'll kill myself and be with Naruto-kun again before I marry you," she snarled as she backed away from him and stood behind her sensei, who put his arm in front of her protectively as he uncovered his Sharingan eye. Sasuke looked shocked for a moment before putting on an arrogant smirk. "What? You don't love me anymore? Why are pining for a dead loser anyway?" he mocked her, turning to Ino. "What? You have feelings for the dope, too?" he asked her while moving toward her, only to be blocked by her father. "Not one step closer, Uchiha," Inoichi snarled as he stood in front of his daughter. Sasuke's expression changed from amused to angry. "How dare you deny me what I want? I'm giving your pathetic tramp of a daughter that honor of bearing my children, and this is how you repay me," he screamed, turning his attention to Hamura and Danzo. "Why are you just standing there? Get me my brides," he ordered. Danzo snapped his fingers and over a dozen of his root shinobi appeared and advanced upon the three girls. Just as they were going to reach out and grab them, they were encased in a shield of sand, courtesy of Gaara, whose siblings joined him by his side, as well as the other Jinchuriki. "You go too far," he told them in dead yet still serious tone as he grabbed them all in his sand coffin. Clenching his fist, he crushed all of the unauthorized Anbu in one stroke. "Back off or you are next. Naruto isn't here to save you this time," he growled as he littered the ground before them with blood and death, with much of the crowd promising the same. The rest of the guests began to shout at them to leave. Sasuke was now enraged that the shinobi population had turned against him. "You'll all pay when I am Hokage. You will all bow to me, the mighty Uchiha. I always get what I want, even you three whores. You will be mine and the ghost of the dope will not stop me," he screamed out, insanity and rage burning in his eyes as he turned and ran back to the Uchiha compound, the council following him in a hurry. After the commotion died down, the funeral was over and everyone went home. The foreign dignitaries left the following day. The rulers of Snow and Wave vowed that they would speak with the Fire Daimyo about the ruling of the council, concerning the traitorous actions of the Uchiha, and about the true identity of Uzumaki Naruto. Jiraiya stopped the Biju carriers and gave them some vital information. He informed them of the Akatsuki and their intentions and members. The oldest of the vessels, Raushi, told him that should the time come to fight them, then all 8 of them will join forces to wipe them out. Jiraiya shuddered at the sheer might that such an alliance would wield, but knew that Naruto would have felt the same. He would have loved to have met them, people just like himself. Deep within the Akatsuki base, Pain and Madara seethed with anger. The container of the Kyuubi and the Kyuubi itself were lost forever. Their goal was now unobtainable due to the Uchiha boy. "Itachi, your little brother, and the snake trader have ruined all we have labored to achieve. I trust that the council of that village will not let Tsunade and Jiraiya will see to the boy. We will go to the sound and wipe it off of the face to the earth," the Akatsuki leader growled. "Yeah, I'll turn that crappy country into the world's biggest pothole, yeah," Deidara replied, almost drooling with anticipation. The so-called mad bomber of the Akatsuki longed for the chance to unleash wanton destruction. "Too bad about that Kyuubi kid. He was kinda interesting," commented Kisame. "Fuck yeah. More offerings to Jashin-sama. Score. Shut up, Haiden. Just don't mutilate them so badly that I can't collect the bounties this time. Fuck off, Kakuzu. Don't give me your money as all crap." Pain had heard enough of the zombie brothers bickering. "Enough. We head to Sound in a few days. There will be no survivors. Itachi, you will go to Konoha and take care to your brother. After Sound and Orochimaru are destroyed, all of you are free to do as you will. Without the Kyuubi, our goal is unreachable," Pain ordered, his tone carried a feeling of defeat. With that, the members of Akatsuki went to prepare for the assault on the Sound. Itachi was left to think for a while. "I failed you, Naruto-kun. My foolish brother has proven himself no different than the rest of my clan. I hope that when we meet in the next world, you can see it in your heart to forgive me," the saddened Uchiha thought as he turned in the direction of Konoha. "Yondaime-sama, Sandaime-sama, please forgive me," Itachi murmured. Ofen, streets. Naruto was walking through the streets of Ofen, heading towards the Sorcerer's Guild building with the directions that Jenny Abasan had given him. Along the way, Naruto felt his belly rumbling, so he stopped at a tavern for some food with the money that Jenny handed him. The past week while he recovered, he felt that he needed to earn his keep, so he performed various odd jobs and tasks around the temple. Many of the priestesses got to know the helpful young blonde, and some became rather fond of him. Young Denise actually kissed him on the cheek for helping her with her chores, making him keel over. Many of the older priestesses found out something peculiar but cute about his whisker marks. When they were rubbed gently, he actually purred and became putty in their hands. When he wasn't helping out, he attempted to train. The Kyuubi found his efforts entertaining and offered him some advice. He told him that the cage bunshin he enjoyed to employ so much could pass along information back to the original after being dispelled. He whooped in glee, now know that training would be a snap. At one time, he used his cage bunshin to help accomplish multiple tasks at once. This floored Jenny, as she had never heard of such a spell before, much less one that could be cast without the use of an incantation or the aid of a wand or some kind of medium. She asked him about it and he gladly told her that it wasn't magic, just a jutsu. She remembered what jutsus were from when he told her and Karwas about his world. He explained as best he could about chakra and its uses. To show her, he walked straight up her office's wall and stood on the ceiling. She was stunned, but also awed by the applications and usefulness of such things. He offered to teach her sometime, which she expressed interest in. When it was time to go, Jenny handed him a small bag of coins, knowing that he had none of the currency of their realm. He tried to tell her that it wasn't necessary, but she insisted. She told him that he was a great help and it was the least she could do, so he relented. Naruto walked into the tavern and quickly found himself a seat. He took in the surroundings and found them quite nice. After a few moments, a waitress made her way over to him and smiled. "Hey there, cutie. What can I get for you?" she asked him playfully, making him blush oh so easily. He was about to ask her for some ramen, but realized that they might not know what ramen is. He broke down and ordered a plate of mutton with some meat. The pub goers took in the sight before them. The boy they saw was no more than 13, had on an obnoxiously bright orange and blue jumpsuit with a red spiral in the back. He also had a pouch on his hip and a holster of some kind on his right thigh. He also had on curious-looking sandals and a headband with a metal plate set on it that bore a spiral leaf insignia. For the women who saw him, the thought that his whisker-like marks on his cheeks were absolutely adorable and made him look like a little fox. Off in the corner of the tavern, Melissa and her two companions, Meryl and Jeannie, were taking a breather from adventuring missions in the pub that was their frequent haunt. Melissa was troubled by what happened during her revealing ritual. She recalled how that boy was reaching for her. She took it as a lecherous action and ignored the lethal wounds that he had and the blood on his outstretched hand. She had told her two friends about what happened and they were keeping an eye out for him. Meryl had her doubts about this mysterious boy Melissa was talking about. She did some digging around and no one fit the description of the boy in question. Looking like he did, he would have stood out like a sore thumb, but there was nothing about him. This kind of thing Meryl didn't like, not knowing what was going on. Melissa sighed and wondered if she would ever meet a real hero when she caught sight of him. "It's that boy, what's he doing here?" she wondered. Jeannie and Meryl followed her gaze to see a young boy in his early teens, somewhat short with golden blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, strange whisker-like makings on his cheeks, and his headband. Jeannie studied him for a moment. "He doesn't look much like a fighter or much of anything, at that. All I see is a scrawny fashion-challenged kid. He doesn't look all that dangerous, but the way he carries himself, he looks like he's at least received combat training," the hulking swordswoman said appraisingly. Meryl decided to add her 2 cents in. "He looks like he'd be more at home in my trade, as a thief or a scout. He looks pretty limber and quick. That holster on his thigh must be some kind of weapon holster. But what kind of weapons does he have?" she wondered. Back at his table, Naruto had just finished eating his lunch. "Hey, Ni-chan. What's the damage?" he chirped cheerfully. The waitress giggled and told him. Naruto left his money and enough for a tip. "Thank you. Come again, Han," she called out after him. The trio followed him out onto the streets. "Now, on to that magic whatchamacallit place," he told himself as he searched his hip pouch for something. He froze and frantically began to search his remaining pockets. "Aw, crap. The directions that Jenny Aubison wrote down for me are gone. Now what'll I do?" he cried in a panic. If he needs directions to get around, he's probably not from around here. A different country, maybe. That would explain his clothes, Jeannie suggested. He mentioned Chief Priestess Jenny and the Magic Guild. She wrote down directions, too. "We should follow him and find out what he's up to," Melissa decided. "Why are you so fixated on that runt, Melissa? It just doesn't make sense," Meryl asked, getting somewhat irritated. Melissa's face burned at the indignation she felt when he saw her in the nude and getting her yelled at by Lady Jenny. "Because he ruined my revealing ceremony, saw me naked and got me yelled at by Lady Jenny. He also appeared out of nowhere and had this strange demonic aura to him. He could be dangerous." Jeannie just sighed. If he were really that dangerous, he probably would have destroyed this town by now. He's had over a week to do it and he's been laying low. There's something wrong with this picture, the tall redhead wondered. Naruto was wandering aimlessly through the streets, trying to find his way when he bumped into a young woman about Koyuki Haim's age, with bright red hair and teal eyes that hid behind glasses. She was carrying some rather cumbersome books that fell when they met. Naruto looked up and saw what he had done. "Oh, man. Sorry about that." He apologized as he helped her gather the books again. She looked at the boy curiously, then smiled. "It's okay. Thanks for helping me gather up my study books," she told him. Naruto's ears perked up. "Study books? What do you study?" he asked, his natural sense of curiosity piqued. For some reason, the curious and confused look on his face made him look like a cute little fox, and it made her chuckle. "I study magic at the Magic Academy. My name's Isla, by the way," she answered him, introducing herself in the process. Naruto gave her one of his fox-like grins and replied, "I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki." He then realized what she said. "Wait a minute, you said Magic Academy, right? That's what I'm trying to find. I was told to find Old Man Carwas there, but I kinda lost the directions that Miss Jenny wrote out for me," he admitted, blushing with embarrassment. "Well, if that's where you're going, I can take you there. I was on my way there myself," she told him. "Right. I've got an easier way to carry all that stuff," he told her while bringing his hands up into a familiar, at least to him, cross-shaped hand seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," he called out. As he did, at least 5 identical copies of himself appeared in puffs of smoke. Isla's eyes boggled at what she just witnessed. No wand, no incantation and magical item, just that strange hand seal. That was amazing. She thought. To further her surprise, he began to order his clones to pick up her books and carry them for her, like her very own caravan. "Shall we?" he asked her as he turned to her. She smiled and led the way to the guild, her small gang of Sherpas trailing behind her. Around the corner, Melissa and her 2 companions saw what he did, too. Impossible, how could he do that? The priestess gasped. Meryl's thoughts echoed hers. What the hell was that? Jeannie was thinking along more tactical lines. That could be useful in combat. You could technically be everywhere at once. If you could order them around like that, you could have your own squad or even send them to scout for traps or ambushes. The possibilities are endless, the ever-practical ex-merc marveled. Along the way to the guild, Isla's mind was flooded with questions about her new young friend. Who is this boy? If he can do that, I wonder what else he can do. She wondered as she asked him a question. Naruto, right? Yeah, Isla Nichan. Where are you from? Why do you need to see Master Karwas if you don't mind me asking? Naruto grew a bit uneasy at the question. Isla noticed his discomfort and quickly dropped the questions. I'm sorry, I didn't know that it would make you so upset, she said apologetically. Nah, it's alright, Isla-chan. It's just hard to talk about, he replied with a slightly haunted look on his face. Isla definitely noticed his distress. Poor little guy, he looks like it really bothers him. Maybe he'll open up later on and I'll see if I can help him some. Isla was so wrapped up in her thoughts that she bumped into a big burly man with a bandana. Hey, you bumped into me. Ain't ya gonna say you're sorry? He asked her, leering at her lecherously. Isla straightened herself. I'm sorry about that, I was just lost in thought. The man sneered at her apology. Maybe I'll just take you for my apology. I think I'll have a pretty good time with you. He drawled out lecherously as he grabbed her arm. Hey. Let me go. She yelled at him, trying to pry herself free, but his grip was firm. Nope, you're gonna work off your apology with your body. Naruto had heard enough. Nobody does that to his friends and gets away with it. Hey. Leave Isla-chan alone or else. He snarled at the man, who was easily 4 times his size. Isla's eyes widened in fear, not for herself, but for the young boy she was with. Naruto, no. He'll kill you. I'll be alright. She tried to tell him but was smacked to silence her. How do we got here? A little hero. He guffawed. That was the last straw. He gestured to his clones to silently surround the man. He then quickly flung a kunai at the man, forcing him to let her go. While he was distracted, Naruto was already in his face, smashing it with one hell of a right cross. You. The punch knocked him back into 3 waiting clones, who slid in and kicked the man upward into another waiting clone. Zu. Ma. Kai. The already airborne clone finished off the odd combo with a vicious axe kick to the man's skull, all but knocking him into sweet unconsciousness. Naruto Renden. Isla was amazed that such a boy could be so strong or fast and that those clones could be used like that. She was driven out of her musings by Naruto asking her if she was alright. Isla-chan. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? He asked her frantically. No, Naruto, I'm alright, thanks to you. The bespectacled girl told him as she leaned in close to her brave little knight, giving him a chaste kiss on his whiskered cheek. Naruto just stood there, stunned, holding his cheek and blushing from his head to his toes. To his memory, this was the 3rd kiss he'd ever received in his young life, and all from very pretty ladies at that. The first was from Tsunade, the second from Koyuki Haim, and now, Isla-chan. She giggled at his blown fuse expression before dragging him and his stunned clones towards the guild. In his head, the Kyuubi was laughing its head off at his host's reaction. Man, Kit. You leave that hellhole of a village for a little while and you turn out to be a chick magnet. Being trapped in you and being here is sounding better every day. Seriously? Am I hearing you right? Am right, Kit. Way better than that village blaming you for every little thing that goes wrong and being chased around by those Akatsuki freaks. Speaking of being a chick magnet, back in our world, you had a couple of beauties following you. This was something Naruto had to scoff at. Yeah right, every girl I knew either pined after that itcha fag or hated my guts, or both. You should know that by now. I swear, that rainbow farting fairy prince had a harem that Iro Senin would have killed for, but he threw everything away for power and the Hebe team. Don't sell yourself short, Kit. Remember that princess in Snow Country? Yeah? What about Koyuki Haim? That vixen had a thing for you. I could smell it, her wants were practically being screamed out and she was a real looker. Don't even get me started on that Hyuga girl. If she's this cute now, just think of how hot she'll look when she gets older. Just to make it better, that girl had the most massive crush on you, now there's this hot little redhead and that young vixen at the temple who kissed you. The Kyuubi mentioned to him slyly. Naruto could have sworn that he felt the fox waggling its eyebrows just like Hiro-Sennin used to when he thought of something pervy. Suddenly, thoughts of a mature adult Hinata in very provocative positions made him go weak in the knees. I knew you had it in you, kid. Keep those images coming. The great demon giggled in a Jiraiya-like manner that was, quite frankly, disturbing. Dealing with one mega pervert on the outside was bad enough, but having one of equal proportions locked up inside of him was even worse. I can't believe I'm even having this conversation with you, the young blonde muttered as he exited the mindscape. The fox chuckled in amusement. This is going to be so much fun, he cackled. Back with the trio, they got their first look at the boy's battle capabilities. Meryl was somewhat impressed that a boy his size took out a full-grown man at least 4 times his size without much effort. She knew that smaller people needed different tactics to take on larger opponents. His feint with the knife-like weapon he threw was a good move. It distracted his opponent and gave him the element of surprise, during which he closed in and started up that unique combo of his. She couldn't understand what Rendon meant, but she could guess at it. This fight gave him a couple of points in Genie's favor. He was obviously set off by that thug's treatment of the girl he had befriended and he didn't hesitate to spring into action. That told her that he wasn't a coward and had a good sense of chivalry and honor. He also kept his cool in the fight and outfoxed his much larger opponent. She still, however, frowned on the fact that no sword was used. She felt that true battles were fought with swords, not with hands and feet like the boy had done. Melissa watched the whole thing with a mix of emotions. In her mind, it wasn't very hero-like using that diversionary tactic, nor was fighting with your bare hands. She was still upset from when the blonde boy appeared in the middle of her ritual. Miley's words echoed in her mind and she shook her head violently. No, 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 no. This scrawny little urchin can't be the hero I was meant to serve. This has to be a mistake. He has a demon inside of him for Miley's sake. Naruto and his clones noted that the area of town was bit too seedy for his tastes. Hey, Ayla-chan. Yes, Naruto. Do you trust me? She was taken back by this question, but she thought back to how he stood up for her and protected her. He definitely had her trust. Yes, I do. Why? He picked her up in a bridal fashion and ran straight up a nearby wall and onto the rooftops, his clones following along behind him. Good. Just point out the way and we'll be there in no time flat. He chirped cheerfully. Again, she was floored by what newfound friend had accomplished. He just ran up a wall, carrying her, like it was the most natural thing on earth. She just pointed out a large complex of buildings on the outskirt of the town they were in. Okay, then. And we're off. He announced as he began to leap from roof to roof with alarming speed. The trio were all stunned by the 2 feats that the young shinobi just pulled. For once, Genie and Meryl had nothing to say, but Melissa just thought of the feats as demonic. No normal human could possibly do these things, she thought. Meryl just whistled. Man, even I'd have trouble following him, let alone catching him. What is he, Melissa? I can't really tell you, but I do know this: he can't be human. Don't you think you're exaggerating just a bit, Melissa? Genie questioned. The priestess didn't answer her, as she was lost in thought. They all just deduced that they had probably seen the last of him for the day and they went their separate ways for the evening. Ofen, Magician's Guild. Naruto and Ayla landed in front of the gates to the guild rather gracefully, surprising and scaring the people nearby. He walked up to the gates when Ayla tapped him on the shoulder, blushing rather heavily. Naruto. You can let me down now. This time, it was Naruto's turn to blush and fluster. Oh, sorry, Ayla-nichan. He stammered out as her quickly but gently set her down. She simply smiled at the bashful boy. It's okay, Naruto. Thank you for being such a gentleman, carrying my things, defending me from thugs, accurately carrying me all the way here. You're going to be quite the catch when you get a little older. She teased him. The pretty redhead giggled at his sheepish but cute reaction to the praise. If you were older, I'd be coming after you myself. Most men twice his age can't even hold a candle to him and he's just hitting puberty. I can't wait to see what kind of man he grows into, she thought to herself as she led him to her room to drop off her things, then she led him to Headmaster Carwis's study. They arrived at the door to the Great Mage's study and knocked. Who is it? A gruff voice asked from inside. It's Ayla, Headmaster. I have a young man named Naruto who wants to see you. She announced. Naruto. Please, by all means come in. Come in. The elderly mage beckoned in a much more friendly voice. They opened the tall double doors and entered the large room. Ah. Naruto, my dear boy. Welcome. Please, have a seat. He said jovially, directing the vertically challenged ninja to a comfortable-looking chair by his large desk. Ayla, thank you for showing him here. He mentioned to her. Ayla grinned. It was my pleasure, Master Carwis, she replied as she told him the circumstances under which she met the young blonde. Carwis was pleased to hear that his assumptions of Naruto's character were proven to be accurate. Naruto, I must thank you for protecting one of my students. You have done myself and the guild a service. Oh, it was Newt and she was real nice and she was showing me the way here when I lost the directions Miss Jenny wrote down for me. He replied in a cheerful manner with a matching grin that Ayla found oh so adorable. Harwis, however, got down to business but asked Naruto something first. Naruto, do you trust Ayla with your secret? I can vouch for her, but I want to get your permission first. He asked. Naruto weighed the decision carefully. Karwisa JAYSEN and Jenny Obasan took it pretty well, and Ayla Nichan seems really nice, I think I can trust her. She reminds me of Shizune Nichan. He thought as he came to his decision. I'll trust her. He declared. Ayla grinned softly he trusts me. He's beginning to open up. Naruto spent the next 2 hours explaining his life and his world, the violent world of the elemental nations and the shinobi. The young woman was shocked, appalled and enraged, and finally sullen. She was shocked at how common some of the feats he showed today were in his world, since he was trained by himself, mostly, to be a ninja. Next she was appalled and enraged that people would seal such horrifying demons into human beings to create weapons, sometimes driving the host insane like the boy named Gaara that he mentioned. Her ire was further aroused by the fact that Naruto himself was one of these Jinchuriki and suffered horribly due to it. He was an orphan from birth, never knew his parents or the love of a family, or even friends. The village that he was sacrificed to save treated him as if he were the demon itself and had beaten, ignored, and disparaged him at every opportunity. Even his birthdays were no exception, in fact they were worse. Her heart truly went out to this boy who had been through so much pain and suffering that would have broken so many others in his place, but he stayed strong through it all. She also pondered the final mission he undertook with his team before being sent here. He was willing to see the girl he loved be in the arms of another, just to see her happy. The red-headed woman felt that his selflessness, honor and courage were astounding, and he wasn't even an adult yet. This boy will indeed be quite the catch once grown. She did the only thing she could think of and embraced the boy tightly. To think all that and he's still such a little sweetheart. There's no way he could be a demon or anything so evil. Naruto flinched when she moved towards him but was surprised when she embraced him so tightly. Why you aren't afraid of me? You don't hate me? He asked her hopefully. She pulled him away slightly and gave him a gentle kiss to his forehead. Of course not. She told him softly as she continued. No demon would have defended my honor like you did, my brave little knight. I told you before, you're actually quite the little gentleman and if you were just a little older, I'd come after you myself, demon or no. Ayla admitted to him slyly as she lightly touched the tip of his nose teasingly. But I'll settle for being your Nichan as you like to call me, my precious little brother. She finished by pulling his smaller frame in tightly. Harwis sighed in relief as well as smiling in happiness. He was right to trust Ayla with this and couldn't happier with the results. From what he knew of Ayla's family life, she was an only child and her mother died when she was young. Now, she has all but adopted the young shinobi as part of her family, even with knowing of his past, condition and occupation. Ninja were somewhat like mercenaries for their kingdom, doing the dirty work from the shadows. Even this boy had blood on his hands from his enemies and had seen loved ones die. It was a real sordid business, but he seemed to be as normal as one could be in that situation, he guessed. Harwis cleared his throat to get their attention. Naruto, I asked Jenny if she could send you down here so that I could talk to you about the seal that you bear. I was wondering if I could get your permission to examine and study it. In all of my years of research and travels, I have never seen such a masterpiece. I don't know, he stammered out. If you would like Jenny and Ayla to be here with you, I can arrange for it. He told Naruto, trying to soothe the boy. The small grin he put on his face gave the mage his answer. He quickly composed a letter to Jenny, asking her if she would mind being present during the examination of the seal to help Naruto calm down and gave it to one of his couriers to deliver immediately. In the meantime, Ayla, would you mind showing Naruto around the town and maybe get yourself some supper? I have a spare dorm room that I can put him up in for the night while we wait for a response. He informed the newly created sister-brother duo as they headed out for the night. The elderly mage sank into his chair with a grin. I'm truly happy for that boy. Now, Ayla has practically claimed him as her brother and is looking out for him. Jenny all but sees the boy as a nephew of sorts, maybe more. Suffice to say, things will get very interesting soon. Ofen, city streets. Nighttime fell on the city and its nightlife came out to play. Along one of the streets came a familiar trio, popping into their favorite pub for some ale and information on new adventure missions. Meryl went off to a corner of the pub to talk of one of her information contacts, while Jeannie and Melissa ordered up the food and drinks. The trio of squires from the castle spotted them and began to hit on them. The taller one came up to the table first and spoke. Hey ladies, looking for company? He asked them, trying to be as suave as his inebriated state would let him. Meryl had come back to the table and was rather frank with them. Hey pal, piss off. the short thief barked at them. His buddy decided to get bold and put his arm around her and copped a feel. "Aw, now don't that way," he drawled out drunkenly. Jeannie had seen enough and decked the sauced squire back into the street via the window. Meanwhile, Isla and Naruto had just arrived at the pub when they saw the knight errant come sailing out of the establishment. "What the hell was that?" the short blonde exclaimed. "I don't know," Isla responded, but before she could turn around, Naruto had dashed off inside to see what was wrong. Upon entering, he saw two similarly dressed men rounding on three women. One was a very tall and muscular woman with bronze skin, facial tattoos, and a rather imposing sword on her back that somehow reminded him of Zabuza and Kisame. Another was a rather nimble woman closer to his height but still taller than him. She closed in on one squire fairly fast and kicked him in his ribs, dropping him to his knees quickly. She looked like she could be a Kenwaichi with the way she moved. The final one looked oddly familiar. She had on the same priestess robes as Jenny Abeson and all the Nichans he met at the temple, and she was about the same age as Isla Nichan. She was standing back and letting the others do the fighting. As he clambered through the crowd to get a better look, a bystander accidentally shoved the short blonde ninja into Melissa, face first into her robes and behind. "Oh, that hurt," he grumbled as he turned his attention to the lady he bumped into. "Hey, sorry about that," he started to apologize, but she slapped his hand away. "Stay away from me, you little monster." She shrieked in fear as she scrambled to her two companions. The crowd started to murmur in response to what she called him. Some thought she was crazy, while others were on the verge of taking it seriously. Her two friends and the squires stopped fighting and stared right at him. "He tried to attack me," she cried to her teammates, who forgot about the squires and rounded on Naruto. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked uneasily, not liking where this was going. "Naruto," he heard Isla call for him until she caught sight of him and ran to his side. "Naruto. Please, don't run off like that. You scared me," she chided. "Sorry about that, Isla Nichan, I just thought that something was wrong and wanted to see what I could do to help out," he related to her. Melissa's eyes went wide with alarm. "Don't stop. Get away from him," she called out. Isla was just plain confused as to why she was reacting like that to Naruto unless. "What's wrong?" "He's just a kid," she replied. "No, he's not. He's a demon in disguise. I saw it myself when he appeared, his blood-red eyes and sharp claws and fangs," she yelled out. Naruto's eyes went downcast and his expression to one of sadness. "Not again, no, I was so close to starting a new life." Isla's eyes flashed in anger as others began to side with the Melee priestess. "I knew it, she knows about the demon, but not the whole story. I have to do something or she'll start a mob," she thought as her anger was rising in her gut. "He is not a demon. You don't know the truth, it's only sealed within him to restrain it and keep it imprisoned." Her impassioned speech did very little as the crowd began to draw near them. One of the squires grabbed Isla and yanked her out of Naruto's reach. "Nichan," he shouted out. "Naruto. No, leave him alone," Isla screamed at them, but they took no heed of her words. They continued to converge on the young blonde boy as he took a defensive stance. "Let Isla Nichan go, now," he growled at them as he let out some of his killing intent at the mob. Those who felt it began to buckle and sweat, but this only made them attack him. The squires lead the assault, opening up with multiple wild slashes with their swords. As he parried the blows, he broke off and made some cage bunshin to help him out. Whipping out kunai, the small squad of Narutos held their ground against their attackers. They were actually somewhat skilled, but due to his training, he was able to hold them off. Meryl began to question if what they were doing was right or not. Meryl saw the lonely and sad eyes of the boy who was fighting for his life and saw a reflection of herself years before. "Melissa, this is crazy. He's only a boy," she protested aloud. She had seen her fair share of the mob mentality from her days growing up in the streets. She never wanted to see that ugly side of humanity again. One of her best friends growing up was blamed for a small epidemic because he was different from everybody else and he was beaten to death for it. Now, the same thing was about to happen to this boy. Jeannie, however, spoke her piece as well. "Meryl, we all saw what this boy could do. He can walk up walls, make tangible copies of himself, all of these without any sort of magical device or medium. If he isn't a demon, then he's still a threat. Once, a monster disguised as a child came to my village. We were unsure of how the child came to be there, but we welcomed it with open arms. One night a week later, the monster attacked and killed many people. Our warriors killed the beast, but the damage was already done. My mother was among those killed and I won't stand by and watch it happen again." Meryl couldn't believe what she was hearing. Jeannie was one of the most sensible people she knew and she was joining in on this madness. She could only hope that the boy could fight his way out of this. The crowd's patience was now bone dry as they were being beaten back by a mere boy. The lead squire pulled Isla to himself and held his blade to her throat. "If you don't want this whore dead, demon, don't resist us. We'll get promoted to knights if we take your head, monster. He sneered with greed in his eyes. He then looked at Isla and realized that she was quite pretty and shapely as well. Heh. I just might have to taste this girl. She doesn't look too bad and she looks like she might be good in the sack. He added with a leering gaze. Naruto's rage was now boiling over as slight wisps of red began to swirl around him as he began to change. His eyes, once a clear crystal blue, were now a violent crimson. His slight whisker-like face marks were now very deep and pronounced. His spiky blonde hair was now more ragged and feral. He was now covered by a cloak of some kind of energy, with a peculiar tail-like appendage swaying behind him. Even his voice was now different. Let my Nichan go now. I won't let you hurt her. He snarled at the mob, who were now beginning to back away. Isla managed to break free from her captors and rushed to the small blonde side once again. She frantically hugged him, begging him to calm down. Naruto, no. Don't do it. I'm okay. Please calm down, come back to me, she began to sob into his shoulder. One of the squires grew tired to the drama and decided to put an end to everything by striking at Isla. Moving quicker than she or the squire could follow, Naruto intercepted the blow by taking it himself. The stab struck him in the exact same spot where the Chidori wound was still healing. The squire scowled but smirked after he saw who he hit. So, you saved me the trouble, demon. He said cockily as he tried to pull the sword out of the boy to finish him off, but began to panic when Naruto grasped the blade and kept him from escaping. You tried to hurt my Nichan, I'll kill you. He roared and he let fly with a Kyuubi-enhanced punch that connected with his face and caved it in, as well as turning him into a wall fixture on the building across the street. The man got lucky because the punch killed him instantly, because the impact with the wall would have been far more painful. Slowly, the demonic aura died down as the boy's body went slack, like a puppet with its strings cut. He slumped into Isla's arms as she felt a sickening wetness from his chest. Oh my god no, her voice quietly quivered as she ripped open his jacket and lifted his shirt. There, staring back at her, was one of the most awful wounds she had ever seen, and it was bleeding heavily. She wasn't a medic, but she knew enough first aid to check for vitals and try to stop the bleeding. It just won't stop, what's happening to him. She cried for the boy who in the span of a day had become one of the most important people in her life. The unfolding event stunned the crowd so much that they started to back away. Meryl couldn't stand it anymore. She rushed over to the fallen and dying boy and tried to staunch the torrent of blood that was rushing from the wound. She turned to Melissa in fury. Melissa? We need help. We're losing him. She shouted as she ripped off the scarf she wore in her hair to make into a makeshift bandage. Said priestess just stood there, shell-shocked. Melissa. For my Lee's sake, snap out of it. We need your help or this innocent boy will die because of the mob you started. Jeannie was just as stunned. She had never seen Meryl get this upset. She looked at the wound and shuddered. It looked like the boy had been gored, run clean through, as if somebody had literally punched a hole in his chest, just shy of his heart. The sword stab must have reopened the wound and made it worse. She remembered back to when he fought that brigand earlier. He hardly seemed injured. Jenny and a small squad of priestesses had just now arrived at the source of the demonic outburst. She felt the burst and assembled a small team to come with her as quickly as she could manage. She looked around and found to her horror Naruto, once again bleeding profusely from the same wound he had before. It hadn't fully healed after all. Whatever she thought was healing him was merely keeping him alive long enough to heal. She looked over and saw Melissa just standing there watching this boy die. She wanted to give her a thorough reprimanding for neglecting her duties, but time was short. The other women who came with her were some of the people Naruto had befriended back at the temple. They swallowed their rage at whoever did this and set to work saving the boy's life. Jenny was furious, livid. She couldn't believe what she was hearing from one of her own priestesses and of her chosen hero, at that. The team spent 2 hours working on him, using one of the tavern's tables as an altar to work with. Finally, he was out of danger. They managed to stop the bleeding and sealed up the wound. Isla helped them by chanting a precisely controlled fire spell onto one of Meryl's knives, and Meryl used the superheated metal to cauterize the wound. Jenny walked over to the two and spoke to them in a gentle and thankful tone. Thank you both so much. If you two hadn't done what you did, Naruto would be dead right now. Meryl was troubled by all that happened that night. She wanted some answers to unravel this blonde mystery. Lady Jenny, what can you tell me about him? He's not from around here, is he? Jenny shook her head sadly. No, he isn't. I trust that Melissa has told you of how he came here, right? Meryl nodded. Now, what I am about to tell you is the truth. You see, the head priestess began to tell the story of the boy whose life was just saved. Meryl's head swam from all of the information she had just processed. She knew that the boy wasn't what he seemed, but this blew her previous perceptions out of the water. He never chose his fate, he had to fight the world alone, but never gave in. Never knew his family or any form of kindness or love. His hope that his team would fill that gap, but that wasn't meant to be. His teammates despised him, and his teacher couldn't give a rat's ass about him. One of the only people who saw any worth in him was killed during an invasion, during which he laid everything he had and was on the line to drive back a demon vessel like himself that had been driven insane by his demon, all for an ungrateful village who hated him just for living. He was willing to give his life just to make a selfish girl happy. Why? Because he loved her, but she used him. He was loyal to a fault, and she used him. That bitch Meryl recapped in her head, snarling at the last part. She just hugged herself, marveling at the kind of willpower and inner strength it must have taken to face the world and still seem as happy-go-lucky as he seemed. Jeannie also overheard the whole story. She heaved a heavy sigh as she took the time to analyze what she learned. The tall woman was a war veteran, but so was this boy. He fought off an invasion in his own village and helped 2 countries get back on track, saving them. This boy is actually a hero on par with King Ridgerl himself, but he was forsaken by his own people. He was intended to be a martyr, to die for a village that scorned him. I feel like such a fool, the hulking ex-merc thought miserably, hanging her head in shame. Melissa, sadly, heard only what she chose to hear. She now knew what ninjas were and some of the missions they had to accomplish. She knew of the boy's past, but coming from a noble house as she did, she just didn't understand how real life worked. My hero is just some nameless street urchin. A worthless orphan. She shrieked. Why did my lead do this to me, giving me a cold-blooded killer like him as a hero? Her rant was cut short not by Isla, Jenny, or even Jeannie, but by Meryl. Stow it, Melissa. I was just like him when I was his age. I grew up alone in the streets, too. Am I just as worthless? Just because I didn't grow up with parents makes my worth as a human being so much less than yours. The young thief snarled in rage, tears beginning to form in her turquoise-green eyes. Jenny placed a calming hand on Meryl's shoulder as she stepped forward. Melissa, I am deeply disappointed in you. I thought that you came to the order to better yourself, and yet, you still haven't really learned a thing about the real world. Class, lineage, social standing, these things are trivial in the real world. You won't find anything in your storybooks here in real life. Those missions were just the way things were. Some of those men who were assassinated were terrible people who all but ruined the lands they ruled. They dealt in slavery, illegal goods and drugs, and in children. She muttered the last part darkly. She highly frowned at the mistreatment of children for any reason. Melissa was shocked that they were taking his side. She stormed off in a huff, but Meryl and Isla were going to tear off after her to give the snobbish priestess a piece of their minds. Jenny called for them to stop, however. Chasing after her will do no good. The boy is her hero, whether she likes it or not. She will have to accept him and the demon sealed away inside of him. This is bad, the seal might be failing. I'll have to get Carwis to take a look at it as soon as possible. That letter said that Naruto requested that I be there for it. I guess that means he trusts me. The city guards soon arrived on the scene. The guard captain walked up to Jenny. Lady Jenny, is everything alright here? He asked, but then caught sight of all the blood that came from Naruto and then to Naruto himself, laying on a table with 2 priestesses bandaging his wound. Is the boy going to be okay? He asked again, this time with concern in his voice. Another guard member spotted the dead squire embedded in the wall across the street and began to ask questions. Meryl stepped up and told them it was self-defense as the squire and his 2 cronies attacked first. Naruto was only defending himself and Isla, and the reason he was currently bleeding so badly was that he took a sword stab that was meant for the young woman from the dead man. Jenny let out a sigh as she confirmed what was said. Yes, a near-fatal wound was aggravated and reopened, along with a direct blow from a sword, but we managed to stop the bleeding in time, thankfully. He's going to be okay if he can just rest enough to heal that wound of his. Well, I could lend you a couple of my men, and we could carry him wherever he lives if you could show us the way. He offered. Thank you, Captain. Could you take him to the Meili Shrine? My priestesses and I will escort you there. She thanked the guard captain as he called for a stretcher team. As the team carefully loaded the boy onto the stretcher, 2 items fell from his pouch. Jenny walked over and picked them up. They were pictures, 2 of them. One had 4 people, including Naruto. One was an older man with long and spiky white hair, red lines under his eyes and a massive scroll on his back. Another was a woman with blonde hair and honey-colored eyes. There was something about her that didn't add up, like she was more than she seemed. She also had a hand on Naruto's shoulder. The last was a young woman, had short black hair and had a kind smile on her face, as well as holding a pig in her arms. The other picture had 4 people as well. One was Naruto again. There were 2 other children in it, 1 boy and 1 girl. The boy had jet black hair that stuck up in the back and had a scowl on his face. The girl had bright pink hair and had a wide smile. The adult in the picture had silverish hair that stood straight up and gave one the mental image of a scarecrow. He wore a headband like Naruto and the other 2 kids did, but slid down over his left eye. He also wore an olive green vest of some kind, and his visible eye gave her the damnest impression that he was smiling. She put them into a pocket in her robes as she and her team began their trek back to the temple. "Wait." Isla called out to them, causing them to stop. Jenny took in who she was. "You must be a student at the Sorcerer's Guild, right?" "Why yes, I am." "Good. Can you let Carwis know what happened?" "Yes, of course. I was going to do that anyway. I'll go and tell him right away." The redhead replied, sprinting off to tell the Master Mage what happened to Naruto. Jenny was a little concerned about her going alone, but Meryl's sudden offer put her fears at ease. "I'll follow her and make sure nothing happens." If the kid got that upset when he thought she was going to be hurt, just imagine what'll happen if she did while he was down. Jenny could see the logic in that. If his power spiked that badly, then there was no telling what may happen if Isla wasn't there to calm him down. That girl was something of a blessing. She prevented a complete catastrophe by becoming a calming influence on the boy. From what it sounded like, he sees her as his big sister. It's actually kind of cute. She reasoned as they continued off into the night. Meryl and Jeannie stood at the door to the tavern, wondering what to do about Melissa until Jeannie spoke up first. "I think we should give her some time to cool down before talking to her about this. We should also get to know the kid as a person before making any judgments." "Agreed." The tall swordswoman asked her shorter and younger friend and teammate. Meryl sighed and replied, "Agreed. I'll reserve my judgment, too. But, I'll tell you this much. I grew up on the streets. I was an orphan just like him, and I had to bring myself up in the same way. If Melissa comments on orphans like that again, I won't be able to hold my temper." The small thief promised before heading off in the direction Isla ran in, easily catching up with her. Jeannie sighed again, then began her trek to her cabin on the outskirts of Ofen. What happened tonight had given her much to think about. "I nearly committed an unforgivable sin. I hope that the boy can come to forgive me." Sorcerer's Guild. Isla made it to the guild and went straight to Master Carwis's study. Meryl, who was tailing her for her safety, had to turn back at the guild's entrance and go home, her mission accomplished. She ran through the halls, completely blowing off Master Foltus's rantings about running in the halls, and threw open the doors, rushing up to his desk. Carwis was about to reprimand her when he saw the panic written clearly on her face and saw that Naruto wasn't with her. "Isla, what's wrong? Did something happen?" he asked, worry and dread seeping into his words as he saw some splotches of blood on her clothes. "Master Carwis. Something happened to his seal. For a brief moment, I felt this awful, heavy force coming from Naruto." She told him as she recounted the events that happened at the tavern. The old Master Mage's brows furrowed in thought and worry. There's no doubt he must have accessed that demon's power on his own. To his credit, he used it to protect Isla, who he thought was in danger. "I'll have to talk to Jenny at once," he surmised inwardly. "Isla, would you please accompany me to the Mylee Temple? We are going to analyze that seal and try to make sure nothing has gone wrong," he told her in a commanding tone, which she obeyed without a second thought. "Hang in there, Naruto. Big sister is coming with some help," the red-headed young woman thought to herself as they geared up and headed out. Mylee Temple. 30 minutes saw them inside the temple. Naruto's wounds had been attended to and he was stabilized. The medics nearly lost him on the way there, but he managed to keep fighting and stayed alive. Carwis looked over at his one-time partner and had never seen such a look of concern and worry on her face before. The priestesses who worked on him were also very concerned for the boy, who in the span of a week had become something of a lovable little brother to them. The Jenny, who had never had children of her own, he knew she was growing attached to the boy in a maternal sense. Isla had rushed off to Naruto's side, guilt building in her stomach. "He did this for my sake. He probably knew the risk he was taking, but he did it anyway. I should have done more. I should have helped him," she lamented as she held her new baby brother's hand. Carwis shook his head. "I guess this is as good a time as any to examine that seal," he reasoned. "Isla, would you mind helping me? Think of it as some extra studies in the sealing arts and being able to help young Naruto at the same time," he proposed to his student as he made preparations to check the seal. After an hour's worth of prep time, work and coordinating with the priestesses for support, Jenny and Carwis began their investigation of the Shiki Fuin by entering the seal themselves. Inside the seal. Carwis and Jenny found themselves inside of some kind of sewer in ankle-deep waters, walking down a dark corridor that led to Naruto's inner mind. Soon enough, they felt the same heavy presence as before and Jenny was homing in on it. After a few moments, they could hear talking. The voice was a deep basso voice that sounded like it came from something huge. It sounded like it was chiding or chastising someone, so they went to investigate it. Once at the source, they found an enormous gate with a tag of sorts on it. Behind the gate was the biggest creature they had ever seen or heard of in their lives. It made the dragon that Ridgel fought, Krish, look like a iguana. This Yondaime person must have been very powerful and skilled to have defeated and sealed such a massive beast. Jenny thought as the great beast noticed them. At its feet, Naruto lay there surrounded by a small cloud of red energy, seemingly in a stasis. "You foolish kid," it growled. "You drew upon my powers in your weakened state and caused that wound made by that tainted Chidori to be reopened, along with getting yourself stabbed by that lowly worm of a human. You have a knack for causing trouble, kid." Harwis wondered about what the hell a Chidori was, but filed it away for later. "I am to assume that you are the demon held by the seal." The Kyuubi studied the two humans for a moment. He recognized the two spiritual energy signatures, one of them still had a lingering presence inside the kid's body from healing him. "You are correct, human. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, or translated into your tongue, the nine-tailed fox." The mighty demon answered them in its booming voice, bringing its full body into view. "Am I to assume that you wish to study the seal?" "I would tread lightly if I were you," it warned, telling them the nature of the seal and its ultimate purpose. Harwis was amazed by the complexity and the calculations that went into such a formula, but such brilliance came at a ghastly price. The seal was meant to empower Naruto, as it served as a limiter and safety restraint, while increasing his resistance and tolerance of the potent chakra. They understood that too much too soon would kill him, and due to the demon's soul being linked to Naruto's, it would die, too. In light of this, the demon used its chakra to speed up Naruto's healing to an astonishing rate, allowing him to endure blows that would kill anyone else. However, he would still feel every bit of the pain. Some of the side effects of this was that his stamina was beyond human, his reserves were massive, and he was stronger than some adults despite his young age. When Jenny asked what could have made such an awful wound on Naruto, the Kyuubi showed them the battle between him and Sasuke Uchiha. They got to see their first fight between shinobi and witnessed some of the power that a Jinchuriki was capable of in combat. Also, to their horror, they saw Naruto die twice, just to revive again and continue to fight. The power of that demon turns the boy into a berserker when he's like that, he's near unstoppable. Jenny thought, her gaze transfixed in horror. His memories came at them unbidden, giving them the answers to his mysterious past and world. What they saw of Naruto's early childhood made Jenny's stomach turn. She had no idea that his life was this bad, or that being a Jinchuriki could curse a person so much. They saw his academy days, and that the instructors all but ignored him, except to punish him for something he didn't do. The behavior of the villagers was abhorrent at best, ranging from neglect to outright abuse, both emotional and physical. The two former teammates were in awe once again at the mental and inner strength of this boy to endure as much as he had and still function normally. Doing such vile things to a mere child, it's a miracle that he can still display any kindness or affection. He must have unfathomable strength of will and spirit to endure the hatred and suffering as he did. I would have broken long ago under such treatment. Their willful ignorance and cruelty will follow them to the grave. When standing at heaven's gates, they will have to answer for their sins. Jenny thought inwardly, her fists clenched in rage. As mentioned before, she abhorred the abuse of children, but what she had seen truly sickened her. She now felt even more protective over the boy and felt even angrier at Melissa, who was, through sheer ignorance, following in the footsteps of those villagers. Next up was the memories of his team, Team 7. Their first impression of Kakashi was that he was a lazy oaf who could barely be bothered to pay attention to his students. Harwis had trouble comprehending the logic in throwing 3 fresh kids with no experience into a dangerous mission, such as the Wave Country mission. Next, he barely taught his team anything, but took the Uchiha boy and gave him private training, ignoring his other students. He palmed Naruto off onto someone who hated him, a truly underhanded thing for a teacher to do. If we ever had an instructor like this in my academy, they would be fired in a heartbeat. There is no excuse to favor one student at the expense of another. Harwis thought with a scowl. During his days of teaching magic and magical theory, he made sure to make time for his students, leaving none behind if he could help it. Next was Sakura. The pink-haired girl's treatment of Naruto was horrible. He was just trying to be nice or helpful, but she always either threw it back in his face or berated him, then hit him. She had the nerve to call him useless, but in reality, she was the burden, one that nearly got Naruto killed on more than one occasion. During the battle with the one called Gaara, Naruto unleashed a massive power, summoning a huge toad, and fought the demon-possessed youth, matching him blow for blow. She then had the nerve to ask Naruto to bring that Sasuke brat back to her when he betrayed their village. Jenny knew better. The girl was using his devotion for her, playing him for all he was worth. That boy had done nothing but be kind and supportive to her, who gave her the right to treat him with such cruelty. This Sakura girl had better pray that we never meet. The normally calm woman seethed with anger. To her beliefs, to use someone as honest and earnest as Naruto had proven himself to be was truly cruel and not worthy of mercy. It came to Sasuke next. The boy was arrogant, rude, vain, and selfish. He believed that no one was greater than his clan to the point of having a superiority complex. This wasn't helped any by their other teammate and the sensei's preferential treatment. It also seemed as if as Naruto grew in power and skill, the more Sasuke was jealous. This came to a head in the battle that landed Naruto in their world. The words the boy spoke were very disturbing and he thoroughly disgusted the two. This boy he was an incident waiting to happen. Arrogance can turn people into monsters, this is only further proof of that fact. This boy was spoiled beyond belief and it still wasn't good enough. I had better not run across him, for his sake. The elderly mage growled inwardly. Arrogance was always a pet peeve of his. It could turn the greatest of heroes into the greatest of fools in a heartbeat as left unchecked. Next was the old man that Naruto mentioned, the Sandaime. Naruto truly saw the elderly leader as a grandfather in his life. He was one of the only people in the boy's life that offered any kind words to him. Then there was Iruka, the only man to willingly teach Naruto, who he saw as an older brother. This Sarutobi really does remind me of Kawase, very much so. Then there is this Iruka, he seems like a very patient and nice young man. I would love to meet them if it were possible, but Sarutobi is dead. Then there was the two Sannin, Jiraiya and Tsunade. The white-haired pervert was almost irresponsibility incarnate, but he taught the boy two vital skills and entrusted him with two legacies of their legendary Yondaime, whom he had taught as well. Naruto saw him as somewhat of a crazy uncle, but his family nonetheless. However, there was the fact that he used Naruto's hard-earned money for his supposed research, which was merely chasing pretty women. Honestly, a man his age should have more restraint than that, especially if he is going to be a role model for a child. Jenny huffed. She was grateful that Naruto hadn't picked up on his habits from being around him so much. Boys his age were very impressionable. Tsunade was a drunkard and a horrible gambler, not to mention foul-tempered, but she cared for Naruto like no one else, going as far as to risk her life to protect him when he saved her. Naruto saw her almost as a mother, but he never told her in fear that he would drive her away. She had a reason for her attitude before, albeit a flimsy one. All of her loved ones save Jiraiya and Shizune were all dead, killed in action. She's led a hard life as well. Living with that kind of grief can really tear away at a person, but it looks like Naruto was beginning to heal her wounds. Sadly, due to her position of authority, any affection from her would be seen as favoritism. I can tell from the look in her eyes that she deeply cared for the boy. She may rest easy, for I will gladly care for the boy. Jenny silently vowed. She saw some of herself in Tsunade, having lost male loved ones in the past. This just made one more thing they shared, their affection for a certain blonde-haired shinobi that had somehow wriggled his way into their hearts without them knowing. Shizune was a very kind young woman who Kawase thought had a lot in common with Ayla. It made sense that Naruto latched onto Ayla in the same fashion, claiming her as his big sister. This woman was very doting on him, making sure he ate right and took care of himself. This young woman and Ayla are vastly similar in personality traits. It only makes sense that the lad latched onto her in such a fashion. She seems like a very caring and responsible young woman. Gucci and Aya Michiraku, who ran the ramen stand where Naruto would eat it all the time, had all but claimed the boy as family, allowing him to work up a monumental tab and work it off bit by bit. They were also the only place where Naruto could get any food without it being poisoned, overpriced, spoiled, or being chazzed out. The daughter, Ayam, was fiercely protective of the boy, even threatening to kill once. This went against her kind nature, but she was willing to do so for the sake of the boy. May my Lee bless this family for the good deeds they have done. I'm sure that their kindness meant the world to Naruto. The priestess thought as she sent out a prayer for my Lee to bless the Ichirakus with good fortune for their kind hearts. Naruto's memories came to another young woman by the name of Anko Mitarashi. At first glance, she dressed rather provocatively and was very loud and brash. But upon closer inspection, they found a very stout-hearted woman who cared for Naruto down to the very core of her being and would fight to the death to protect him. Jenny could tell from the look in her eyes when she regarded the young demon vessel. Such a strong young woman, many of my young priestesses could stand to learn a thing or two from her. I would very much like to meet her, as she seems to be a very interesting person. Jenny mused. She knew of a few young women who could learn from such an example, Melissa being at the top of the list. Finally, they came to Hinata. Jenny thought the girl was blind at first, but remembered Naruto describing to her that a clan in the village had eyes like that. She also thought the girl was overwhelmingly cute but extremely bashful. The two could tell that the girl harbored a massive crush on Naruto but lacked the confidence to tell him. It's too bad that this girl was so shy and timid. She really does seem like a very gentle soul and she really seems to like him. It makes sense that Naruto wouldn't have seen it, being used to so much hatred and cruelty being aimed at him that he wouldn't have expected it. Jenny mused. Hinata reminded her of a friend she had when she was young. They also came across his other battles and people he'd met. Orochimaru was simply as evil and twisted as one could get. The fallen Hibi Sennin had an obsession with youth and perfection like most who abused magic. This Orochimaru reminds me of a few sorcerers that I've had to face in the past. They always want the same thing, to become all-powerful and to live forever. I've seen some sick and twisted things, but living from body to body like that is as evil as one could get. Desecrating the dead is a sin that cannot be forgiven. Carwis mused. He had dealt with people of this sort before, from overconfident sorcerers to. Ara was just like Naruto, but was a different side to the same coin. The poor youth never asked to have a demon sealed within him, but again the power-hungry ambitions of another caused immense suffering in one who was innocent. Zabuza and Haku were a tragic pair, misunderstood and just on the wrong side. Zabuza sought to free his country from a tyrant, but ultimately failed. Haku was a very kind young man, even if it was hard to tell his gender. He never aimed to kill. There were many more. The desperate fights he'd seen and fought were of legendary proportions, but the boy was ridiculed when he got back home. His battle with Gaara was one that could have literally shook the heavens. They now completely understood and learned the mystery that was Naruto Uzumaki as they left the seal and came back to the real world. Lily Temple Altar Room. Ayla and the other two priestesses providing support waited anxiously for their respective masters to come about. Soon, they got what they were waiting for as Jenny and Carwis both came around, trying to shake the proverbial cobwebs from their minds. Once they got their Orientean back, however, their visages took on looks of sadness. "Master Carwis, what's wrong?" Ayla inquired. What could have happened in there to make them wear such forlorn looks? Carwis regarded his student wearily before answering. "Remember how Naruto told you of his life? We saw the truth and what Naruto told us was just the beginning. He just glossed over some of the most horrifying things I've ever seen, things that happened to him. Things that he would feel ashamed to tell us about, embarrassed." He finished with a growl. He still couldn't, for the life of him, fathom how any human being could treat a child so cruelly and horribly. Jenny sighed. The demon inside of him was more civil than most of the people in his home village. Those people were a true disgrace. It is no small wonder that the boy clings to his precious few loved ones with such tenacity and fierce devotion. Ayla was puzzled as well as concerned about the hostile reactions to Naruto's memories. What could you have possibly seen in his mind that could make you so angry? Ayla, when he is ready to tell you, he will tell you. Jenny and I won't tell him that we know, because if he would have wanted us to, he would have told us. The elderly magician replied as he rested up for a moment and pondered what he learned of Naruto's native language and text. He had a new wealth of research material into these new seals, as well as chakra. Ayla turned to Jenny. "Lady Jenny, could I stay here with him? He might want a friendly face when he wakes up." "I don't mind, Ayla. Good night," she replied as she turned for the door. She was tired and it had been a long night for her, so she retired to her bedchambers for the night. Konoha. It has been 3 months since Naruto had died and was laid to rest, but for those who mourned him, their grief never really died down. The council's decision on Sasuke's punishment was made public and caused a massive outcry from a majority of the shinobi population. He was sentenced to only 3 months of probation and wasn't allowed to leave the village for 6 months. The next outrage came from the newly proposed Uchiha breeding program that the council had pushed through without Tsunade's approval. They had steadily stripped her of many of her political powers and reduced her to all but a figurehead. This program called for all young women from 13 to 25, kunoichi or not, to register to be an Uchiha bride, and that Sasuke would pick his top 5 choices to restart his clan immediately. The biggest cry of rage came from the shinobi clans and from the girls and senseis of the Rookie 9 and Team Guy. Ino and Sakura had shed their infatuation with the breeding teen, seeing him for what he really is, a cowardly traitor who spat on everything it meant to be a Konoha ninja and who murdered a kind-hearted boy who only wanted to save him from himself in cold blood. Tenten saw the Uchiha as a disgusting excuse for a human being and wanted nothing to do with him. Hinata wanted to kill Sasuke for what he did and she wanted to do it slowly. After she was done crying, she made a sudden and frightening transformation from a timid little girl to a deadly serious kunoichi, somewhat similar to Anko Mitarashi, except less sultry and psychotic and more angry and dark. She still had a kind side to her, but it was warranted less and less with each passing incident with the villagers. She actually put a Uchiha fangirl in the hospital with multiple fractures and all of her tenketsu closed hard. This incident was started by a girl from the academy named Ami, who came to call the Hyuga heiress a demon whore and that she should have died along with the dope. This led to the girl never being able to use chakra ever again. Sakura and Ino had similar things happen to them. Sakura had quite a few run-ins with her parents, who were still trying to get her into the breeding program to further their names and reputations. She finally told them that she would rather join Naruto in death than help Sasuke bring about his cursed spawn. In a rage, her father, a civilian, struck out at her but forgot one very important fact: Sakura is a trained kunoichi and could fight as such. The very punches that she used to use on Naruto were now being used to avenge him as she knocked her father out for 3 days. As a result of that, her parents kicked her out of the house and disowned her. Within an hour, Ino and her parents heard about it and took her in. Ino had to deal with a lot of cold shoulders and scalding remarks from a lot of former friends that were still fangirls and Uchiha supporters. Even people who were once very good friends of her family had turned against her, calling her a traitor for turning down the marriage to the Uchiha or Lord Sasuke, as many of the civilian population had come to call him. She was called things like whore and demon slut, but she was once accosted by a rather burly man who was anything but polite. "Well, if it ain't one the Kyuubi sluts." He sneered at her, leering at her budding figure. "I might just take a crack at ya, make a woman out of you before that Uchiha kid does." Before the man could even lay a hand on her, an enlarged fist lanced out of nowhere and smashed the man into a nearby wall. The owner of said fist? None other than her teammate Chaoji, with Shikamaru and Asuma-sensei standing with them. "Thank you, Chaoji, Shika-sensei," she whispered. Asuma dragged the man off to the jails, and her teammates escorted her home. Tenten was the only genin Kunoichi with no clan backing, as she was an orphan like her teammate Lee. She was threatened with being stripped of her shinobi license and status for refusing to register until Guy stepped in. He announced that he was adopting Tenten, thus keeping her safe from the drafting of the program due to his strong disapproval. She had never been so grateful for her sensei, ever. Over the past 2 years, she had begun to her team as her family, with Guy sensei as the proud patriarch. This adoption only solidified her belief in that. Hana Inyazuka was approached by the elders Hamura and Danzo about her failing to enlist in the breeding program, but she shot back with the fact that the Uchiha disgusted her and she'd sooner kill herself than carry his children within her womb. She began to sequester herself in the veterinary clinic where she worked. Anko was the only one of the Jounin females that was in the age range of the program, but she fought registration tooth and nail. At one point, she was willing to become a Nukenin to escape it, but Tsunade offered an alternative. "You wanted to see me, Lady Tsunade?" Anko inquired, wondering what she could have been called in for if it wasn't a mission. "Ah, yes Anko. I do. It has come to my attention that you do not wish to be drafted into the Uchiha revival program. In fact, when elders Hamura and Danzo approached you about it, you were very adamant about not wanting anything to do with it." The blonde Sanin recanted with a chuckle. Anko blushed a bit when she remembered her harsh words, but steeled herself. "I refuse to carry that little bastard seed for what he did to my Achu Odo. I'd rather burn in hell for all eternity than let anything from him touch me." The snake Kunoichi snarled, her hazel eyes going cold as ice. "Easy there, Anko. I didn't call you here to force you into the program, but to offer you a way out of it. I noticed from your record that you were on Naruto's protection squad when he was little. You personally took the job very seriously and even guarded him with your life." She commented, setting down a file with her name on it. Anko's eyes took on a faraway look and began to water slightly at the memory. "Yeah, I was. That little brat grew on me and before I knew it, he was impotent to me. I really cared about him, you know. You just don't forget things like that," she told Tsunade as tears began to fall. Tsunade smiled. She got the answer she was looking for. "I can tell that you loved him like family. I loved him, too. I never had any children of my own, but I always wondered what it would have been like to be a mother. I was planning on adopting Naruto once I got completely settled down here in the village, but that rat bastard Uchiha killed him before I had the chance. But since you loved him the same way and you need help, I would like to adopt you into the Senju clan. This will render you immune to the draft." Anko could barely believe what she was hearing. "Hey, are you serious, Hokage-sama? Why you really want me as part of your family?" she asked, hoping against hope that what she heard was the truth. "Yes, I meant it. Welcome to the family, Anko-chan," the beautiful Senin told her warmly. Thank you, Hokage-sama," she whispered quietly, but Tsunade stopped her. Now, Anko-chan, I just adopted you." Anko's smile got even wider, almost matching the smile of the boy she saw as her baby. She closed her eyes and let a tear escape down her cheek. "Gomen, Tsunade Akasan." Shizune heard the whole thing and came in to embrace her new sister. Anko was just happy to finally have a family, but wished that her little blonde Gaki could be there with them. "Gaki, I hope you can see this, we still love you and we'll never forget you." Tsunade and Jiraiya couldn't have been more proud of the way the teams and clans were banding together to fight this unfair ruling and the council's tyrannical ways. Jiraiya was using his contacts with the daimyo's offices to have the Uchiha's punishment changed to life imprisonment and to abolish the breeding program, but it was slow going. The only reason he could see for this was that Danzo's rude operatives were impeding progress and that the old Warhawk had his claws in the daimyo's court and council somehow. On another note, the Akatsuki had seemed to switch objectives. They seemed to abandon their search for the Jinchuriki and had begun a search and destroy campaign against Orochimaru, already destroying several bases and killing many of his Odo nin. Madara was ruthless in his campaign against Orochimaru, completely obliterating rice field country to try and flush him out. There were some survivors, like a handful of ninja from a clan called the Fuuma, who defected to Konoha and were awarded amnesty by Tsunade. Due to lack security where the Uchiha was concerned and Danzo's rude Anbu making sure the security stayed that way, Kabuto had managed to spirit Sasuke away to Orochimaru. Sasuke left the village willingly, again, in hopes of fulfilling his ambition of killing Itachi and subjugating Konoha, taking what he believed was rightfully his. However, Orochimaru was forced to have them change their locations due to the Akatsuki being hot on their heels, out for retribution. Itachi was currently pursuing the pair in order to finish what he started the night of the Uchiha massacre, as a penance for failing to protect the Yondame's legacy. The council was now calling for Tsunade's resignation from her position and wanted to appoint Danzo as the Hokage, but Jiraiya, along the wave and snow regions, had managed to come through for the beautiful blonde Hokage. Jiraiya escorted the two leaders to the capital and contacted the daimyo personally, getting him to halt the council's actions. To add to that, the fire daimyo stated that as long as he was regent, he would never accept Danzo as the Hokage due to his warmongering ways and had stripped the civilian council of most of its political power. After his failed bid for power in the village, Danzo flew into a rage and attempted to take the office of Hokage by force, calling his root shinobi in to kill Tsunade and all who opposed him. One thing he forgot to take into account was that over 90% of the shinobi in the village had thrown in their support to Tsunade since the funeral, which led to a humiliating defeat for Danzo's root forces. After his defeat, he quickly and silently fled the village. He traveled until he caught up to Orochimaru and struck up an alliance with the demented Hibi Sennin. His ultimate goal was to gain control over Konoha and eventually the world. The bandaged traitor had no intention of backing Orochimaru and was only biding his time until he figured out the secret behind the insane man's immortality jutsu, making him useless and enabling him to take over Sasuke for himself. Things seemed stable for now, and the upheaval caused by the attempted defection had died down for the most part. Everyone seemed to carry on with their lives, but never forgot about the one who died on that mission to make it a success. His apartment was sealed off, and his surviving belongings were sealed up in a large storage scroll that Tsunade kept in her manor, as a keepsake of the boy she loved with all her heart. These victories meant nothing to her if she couldn't have her loved ones there with her. "And, Nawaki, grandfather and great-uncle, please take good care of Naruto for me until I get there. Ofen." It had been 3 months since Naruto had arrived at the temple, and he was beginning to get used to how things were done in his new world. He was now on a team of adventurers and was learning the art of the sword from one of his teammates. He climbed out of bed and stretched, thinking of all that he had been through. Flashback. Harwis offered to teach Naruto how to use magic in exchange for his knowledge of his world's texts and how to utilize chakra. He wholeheartedly agreed to the deal and threw himself into the magic lessons with gusto. Harwis and Jenny turned out to be quick studies, and after 2 weeks, they mastered the tree climbing exercise and were working on how to use it to bolster their physical abilities. Harwis allowed him to have full access to the guild's libraries, at least as much as a student would, even a magic wand with which to use magic. He sent waves of cage bunchins in there to learn everything he possibly could. Most of the professors there could only grin at the boy's natural curiosity and drive, some of which wanted to quote it as saying that he would go far and would make the guild proud. However, one professor saw him as an outsider and an urchin. Master Foltest had a natural disdain for anyone or anything out of his sense of the ordinary, and Naruto was as strange as they came. Ayla helped Naruto out wherever she could and helped him learn more about the world around him. She marveled more than once at how sponge-like he was when it came to new information and how open he was to being taught. He seemed to follow her around like a baby chick and hung on her every word. Jenny thought that it was quite adorable when she found the pair resting underneath a tree in the guild courtyard, the short blonde's head resting on her shoulder. She had introduced him to her father, who ran one of the biggest trading companies in the kingdom. He was a short rotund man with the same red hair and green eyes his daughter had, with a friendly and boisterous personality to go along with it. She explained Naruto's situation, and he accepted the boy without a second thought on the matter. He now had a nephew of sorts who knew all kinds of good jokes and pranks that the man absolutely loved. The two of them hit it off very quickly. To help keep up with his shinobi training, the Kyuubi gave him a little more advice. He taught him how to make weight seals in order to make himself some training weights. After a week of perfecting them, he applied them to a pair of bracers that he purchased from a merchant Ayla introduced him to, a friend of her father's. After a month of wearing them on his ankles and wrists, he noticed a difference in his strength and speed. This encouraged him to continue to wear the weights at all times during the day. Naruto also learned that the massive demon fox was a literal treasure trove of knowledge. He guessed that eating shinobi and assimilating their knowledge through the years had come in useful, after all. He began to build his jutsu library, starting with a few Kaiten jutsu that Sasuke used against him, then onto a few Suiton jutsu that he saw Zabuza use on his first real mission, on top of teaching himself the Shunshin to help him get around much easier. The Great Demon was secretly very proud of how quickly his host was adapting to his situation. He had a hard time finding work after what happened in the tavern. Rumors of him being a demon in disguise had begun to spread quickly through the streets, so few would hire him. The people who didn't see him as such either thought that the rumors were complete hogwash or didn't hear it yet. He did jobs at the tavern that he frequently visited, such as a porter, waiter, and dishwasher. The owner loved having him around because he had an army-sized workforce, but only had to pay one of them, and the work was done quickly. One of the waitresses, an older woman named Amy, was skeptical of him at first due to the rumors, until one day a customer was drunk and decided to get a little too touchy with her. Naruto heard her from the kitchen and came out to see what the trouble was and found him groping the woman while she yelled at him to let go. "Hey pal. Let her go," he shouted at him. The man looked around to see who had the guts to tell him what to do and found a scrawny kid. "Beat it, brat. You don't." He paused to pull out his sword. "I'll kill ya." Amy's eyes widened in fear, not for herself, but for the boy who was standing up for her. "Don't do it, kid. He'll really kill you. Call the city guard." Naruto's eyes narrowed as he came up with a plan and ran with it. It was similar to the plan he used to protect Ayla when he met her. He launched a kunai he had hidden in his clothes at the man, but he was too drunk to dodge it and took it in his shoulder. The pain made him let the woman go and he launched his assault. 3-Kage Bunshin kept his attention away from Naruto himself and another clone, steering him toward the tavern entrance while they powered up a low-powered Rasengan. When the Rasengan was ready, the clone stunned him and Naruto shoved the mini hurricane into the large man's sternum, sending him spinning end over end through the tavern doors, across the street and into a wall. When the dust settled, Naruto was walking back to the kitchen to finish with the dishes he hadn't done yet when Amy stopped him by grabbing his wrist. "Wait," she called to him. "What?" he asked quietly without turning around. Her words were stuck in her throat. She was just as bad as some of the rumor spreaders, but he still risked himself to protect her. Thank you," she choked out. Naruto turned to face her and looked up at her with a grin. "You're welcome," he replied as he set back to work. The owner and the other waitress who liked Naruto, Tessa, watched the scene with awe and pride. They knew the boy couldn't be a demon or even evil. He was too nice a boy for that. In between jobs and lessons, he still found time to train himself. The Kage Bunshin learning method was put through its paces as he refined his control. He felt himself getting closer to a one-handed Rasengan. He also worked on his taijutsu using his clones and brushed up on his weapons and throwing skills. Little did he know, he was being watched during his training. Jeannie and Meryl had been watching the boy train and work for the past couple of months in between adventure missions. Needless to say, they were becoming impressed with the boy. He was proving himself to be more and more the opposite of the nasty rumor mill started by Melissa, and now they wanted to start including him on their adventures. From what they learned that night in the tavern from Jenny, the missions he had been on were very similar to what they do. They approached Naruto in a casual manner while he was training, but ended up spooking him. He only remembered them as the ones who nearly got his Nichan hurt. Jeannie tried to calm him down. "Easy there, kid. We didn't come here to fight you." The tall swordswoman opened up. "I should have expected this." He still remembers that night. Naruto calmed a bit but kept his guard up just the same. He kept his hand near his weapon holster while he eyed them cautiously. "You and her called me a monster just like that crazy priestess and the others, so what makes you think that I should trust you?" "Look," Meryl sighed. "I know that we were being stupid. As for Melissa, she doesn't know any better. She was raised by nobility, not by the streets like you and me were," she told him. Naruto still wasn't convinced and she saw that. She decided to tell him about what Jenny said on that night. "Lady Jenny told us about you. I was an orphan, just like you. I understand the pain and loneliness you went through to an extent. I also know the truth behind what you hold and I don't hold it against you. You were only trying to protect that Ayla girl that you care about so much," the small-statured thief explained to him softly. Naruto eased up a little after that fact as his expression turned downcast. Jeannie could see that he still didn't trust them, but she also felt that he had every right not to. "Listen kid, we would like to include you on our adventurer team. From what I've been hearing, you've been studying magic and becoming quite skilled with it. Why not test your skills out in the world and make a name for yourself and make a living while you're at it? We get missions all the time, similar to what you're used to back where you're from." Naruto perked up a bit at the chance for acceptance these two women were offering. "You're serious? Not joking or lying to me?" he asked them hopefully. It nearly broke Meryl's heart to see such a desperate look in the eyes of someone so young, but she remembered that Naruto was strong and could handle the dangers that adventuring involved. "We're being completely serious and honest with you. We'd love to have you." she told him, ruffling his spiky blonde hair slightly. On top of that, how would you like to learn how to use a sword? Genie asked him. You mean it? He asked them excitedly. Trust teaching him anything new to break the ice. The tall woman chuckled at his enthusiasm. It's hard to remember that he's still only 13 years old. I really mean it, kid. I'll teach you myself. She told him honestly. The young blonde was floored by the offer. He had to wheedle lessons and help from his former senseis, but this woman was offering to teach him her style of kenjutsu and offering him a place on her team. Acceptance. Acknowledgement. Two things he craved and was receiving in spades since he came to this world. I'll do it. I'd be happy to join your team. Thank you, Genie-sensei. He exclaimed. Genie was puzzled by how he referred to her. What does sensei mean? She asked. It's a suffix that we add to those we respect as teachers. The short blonde explained to her. The team hit it off very quickly with the friendly shinobi. They found him very cheerful and pleasant to talk to, if not a bit loud, but then again he's still young. It became a rather endearing trait along with his honest and playful nature. Genie became enthralled by his native culture and was especially captivated by his tales of the samurai, swordsmen and women, warriors with strict codes of honor and conduct. She really wanted to meet one and face him or her in a match to compare styles. She was happy to hear that her new students secretly looked up to them as a source of inspiration. Meryl was interested in the kunoichi that Naruto mentioned, especially the ones named Tsunade, Kurenai and Anko, three women he highly respected and was slightly terrified of. He told her that she isn't too far off from being a kunoichi herself and with the right training, she would be able to accomplish some of the same tricks he used. The sheer prospects of being able to create clones and walk up walls had her chomping at the bit. She even compared hardware with the small shinobi, having a go with his kunai and Naruto trying out her daggers. She marveled at the balance of the kunai and its versatility. It was durable enough to be used in close quarters but still light enough to be thrown with deadly accuracy. They were both interested in learning about chakra from him, Genie to increase her speed and strength, and Meryl to use the abilities that Naruto would teach her. The first step was to open up their chakra, which went off without a hitch. To his surprise, he found that Genie had rather large reserves where Meryl's were somewhat smaller, but still sizable. Next came the chakra control exercises such as the leaf exercise and tree climbing exercise. Surprisingly, they got the leaf exercise down by the end of the week-long mission and were currently working on the tree climbing, which was proving to be much harder and more taxing. Next up, they started to learn about actual jutsu. He taught them the three basics from the academy, the bunshin, kawarimi and henge. Meryl nearly salivated at the prospects of the henge. Disguises would no longer be necessary and it would be worlds easier to gather information unnoticed by anyone. Genie saw the combat practicality of the kawarimi after Naruto demonstrated it for them. She had to admit that being able to switch places with a random object to avoid taking damage was a very handy skill, one that could possibly save her life one day. During their missions thus far, Melissa kept to herself for the most part but readily criticized the vertically challenged blonde at any given moment. She was appalled at the fact that her two friends were being so chummy with who she saw as a demon and a danger. Naruto was trying to be nice to her and trying to get her to trust him, but it wasn't working out so well. Jenny explained what it meant to be chosen as a hero and he rather embraced the idea. He felt that if he became a hero, people would see past the demon inside of him and see the real him. Ayla was rather worried about her recently adopted little brother going out on missions that could be potentially dangerous. She knew that Naruto was strong and could take care of himself, but it still never stopped her from worrying for his safety. She wanted to spend more time around him and found herself getting to know Genie and Meryl while learning about chakra herself. She truly loved the boy who had become a member of her family. Lastly, Naruto was out training in the forest alone when he felt a strange presence watching him from the fringe of the tree line. Who's there? Come out. He shouted as he made some cage bunshin and palmed a pair of kunai. The figure in the tree was stunned twice. That young boy, how did he sense me and how did he do that spell without any kind of medium? That was incredible. It thought as it dropped out of the tree to reveal a slender, well-endowed and blonde young woman with pointy ears. "One elf? This close to a town?" he asked. He had studied up on magical creatures and was especially eager to meet an elf. "I was just in the area when I felt a strange energy coming from here, so I decided to check it out. I'm Silesia. How did you do that, by the way?" she inquired to his unique skills. "Oh that was just a jutsu and the name's Naruto," he chirped with his fox-like grin. The young elf couldn't help but see him as a cute little fox with his whisker marks and grin. However, the term jutsu was new to her, so naturally it piqued her curiosity. "Jutsu? I've never heard of that before." Silesia wondered. Naruto launched into a full explanation of chakra and what it could do. To demonstrate, he walked straight up a nearby tree like he was strolling down a path. The display had her floored. She'd never seen anyone or anything besides spider-like creatures do what he just did. She had to know what he was. Are you a demi-human or something? The air about you and your scent makes me think of a fox. She asked. Naruto was confused, then a little peeved. No. I'm not. He answered curtly. Silesia sensed that she hit a real sore spot and sought to amend it. I'm sorry for asking you that. It's just I've never seen anything like what you've done before and it's actually pretty amazing. She admitted. Naruto let out a slight chuckle. It's alright. It's not the first time that's happened. He replied wearily, leading her to believe that something was wrong but wouldn't breach the subject unless he did first. The two made small talk for a little while on the branch of a tree. She told him that she was from a village in the forest of Tartarus where her grandfather was one of the head elders leading the village. She asked how old he was and she was shocked that he was barely 13 years old and had been a shinobi for a full year already. Naruto remembered that elves lived very long lives and blurted out the question as to how old she really was. He was surprised when she didn't get mad and just giggled while ruffling his hair. I'm really 84 human years old, but I'm 17 amongst my people. She admitted. Naruto got flustered at the answer, but recovered. Well, you look really pretty then. He blurted out again, blushing profusely. She paused, smiled, and kissed him on the cheek. You're really sweet and really interesting for a human. She told him and the two sat there in silence until they felt someone coming close. I need to go now. I'll see you again, my little fox. She whispered to him as she disappeared into the forest. With her leaving him there on that branch, that concluded his first encounter with an elf. Inside of the seal, he felt the Kyuubi try to speak to him. What's up, fox? I've said it before and I'll say it again, you're a real babe magnet in this world. That hot little elven honey actually kissed you. You should feel lucky, since elves tend to shirk human contact, but this one likes you. You'll be seeing her again in the near future, of that I'm certain. I can't wait. The mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune giggled pervertedly. Naruto smacked his palm against his forehead in exasperation, but thought that she was one of the most beautiful women he'd ever seen in his life, hands down, and he himself couldn't wait to meet her again. Then flashback. Naruto got up out of bed and got ready for the day, strapping the blade that was given to him by his new sensei, which included meet his teammates at the tavern they frequented for a new mission with his team. Upon entry, the two waitresses spotted him and gave him a friendly greeting. Hey there, sweetie. Tessa called to her friend and part-time co-worker. Hey kiddo. Good to see you. The older waitress told him as she ruffled his hair. Hi ladies. He chimed in response. So, what brings you here today? Amy asked him. I'm meeting with my teammates today. I'm gonna get my new mission today and I can't wait. He told them excitedly. He could hardly wait to get going and see more of the world that he was stranded in. He had originally wanted to go out on his own, but Jenny strongly advised against it, as did his new teammates, well Jeannie and Meryl anyway. Even though he could take care of himself, it still wasn't a very safe. Melissa had made herself scarce ever since the tavern incident. Even Jenny and her fellow priestesses had a hard time trying to find her. She only came out if Naruto wasn't around or if they had team missions to do. Even then, she tried to pretend that Naruto didn't exist. Naruto would get a little glum, but he always tried to get her to trust him just for it to be thrown back into his face. Meryl, Jeannie, and Melissa filed into the tavern and sat down at Naruto's table, with Melissa trying to keep her distance from him as usual. Naruto just sighed at her behavior, used to it by now. Meryl stood up and was about to rattle off some mission prospects until they saw Lady Jenny enter the tavern with 4 girls in tow, one of which winked at him, causing him to color slightly, noticed by Meryl and Jenny. Meryl had a sly smirk. So one of the little priestesses is kinda sweet on him. Jenny had known about this for a while now. Denise was a nice girl and even though she knew the whole truth about Naruto, she liked him anyway. Many of her peers her own age followed Melissa around and copied her views of Naruto, but she had her own thoughts on him. At least she has some sense. He's a nice boy, too bad Denise was too young to do the revealing ritual and get him as her hero. Huh? Jenny Obison, what's going on? You guys need something? He asked the elder priestess. Don't call Lady Jenny by that strange name. Melissa scolded Naruto, but Jenny raised her hand to dismiss it. It's alright, Melissa. I really don't mind him calling me that. As for my business here, I wish to hire your team, Melissa. I want you and your team to take these trainees out to an abandoned ruin a day's hike away from here. There have been some complaints from locals that the undead have taken up residence there, and I believe that it would be a valuable learning experience for these girls. Jenny told them as she further explained the details of the mission. The team was to escort the young priestesses in training to the ruins and back, but when they were inside, only Melissa could go with them unless the situation was dire. Naruto nodded at the terms, as he knew what it was like having to figure things out for himself, like with Jiraiya throwing him off a cliff so he could learn to summon the Kyuubi's power on command, not to mention summoning that stubborn old toad Gamabunta. Meryl was doing the math and was quite pleased with the amount they'd get for such a simple mission. This job would pull them out of the red with their debtors and finally put them on comfortable financial grounds. Naruto and Meryl had been doing odd jobs in order to curtail the costs of their gear and paying informants, while Genie had the occasional bodyguard job. None of which paid too well, but kept them out of debt hell for the time being, along with Naruto and Meryl being whizzes at handling money. "We'll take the job, Lady Jenny," the short thief chirped with glee. "Excellent. Now, I leave these girls in your care," Jenny told the team as she took her leave via the Shunshin for effect. Jenny perfected it a few weeks ago, and it took her a full month to do so after Naruto taught it to her, but it was worth the effort. She loved using this jutsu to get around as it saved much time in getting around town and enabled her to get to trouble spots quickly. She left the team in a swirl of leaves, bound for the temple once again. "Man, I have to learn how to do that," Meryl mumbled as she straightened herself to face the young priestesses. "Alright, everyone. I trust that you all have your gear standing by?" Genie asked them, to which they nodded. "Good. Since we still have plenty of daylight, we'll set out immediately," the towering woman told them as she shouldered her own pack, with Naruto mimicking her. The young shinobi had come to greatly admire the allied tribeswoman and looked up to her a lot, just like he did with Meryl and Isla, to the point where he asked about getting facial tattoos like her. She chuckled and hated to disappoint him by telling him that he needed to be a member of the tribe, but she couldn't help but think one thing: you'd actually make a great tribe member had you been born an allied. It's such a shame that you weren't. She thought about her young apprentice. Outside of Ofen, halfway to defiled ruins. The team had been on the road at least until the sun was beginning to set when it was decided that they would begin to set up camp. The girls were exhausted, but Naruto, Meryl and Genie were still doing just fine as Naruto volunteered to go catch dinner in a nearby stream, jumping off into the trees. Melissa watched him go with a snort of derision. "Stupid urchin," she muttered, to which 3 of the apprentices nodded. Denise looked at them in disgust before she sat down near the other 2 team members. "Why does Miss Melissa hate Naruto so much? He's really nice and hasn't done anything to anyone. I just don't get it," she asked them. Meryl sighed. Naruto has been chosen to be the hero she is bound to serve, but she only sees what she wants to see. She wants her hero to be just like the ones in the storybooks, but instead she got an orphan with a demon sealed inside of him. She's really bitter about it, but blames everything on him to make herself feel better. The eyes of the young priestess narrowed as she regarded the senior priestess that was supposed to train them and her 3 worshippers. Gannett, Joan and Anna completely worshipped Melissa in a manner that reminded Naruto of Sasuke's fangirls. "Damn it. I still can't get away from those stupid fangirls," Naruto snarled as he landed next to his other companions with a line of fish. Meryl eyed the fish she had. "Good haul, kiddo," she commented. "By the way, what did you mean by fangirls?" "Oh, that. If you remember correctly, that jackass that gave me that chest wound was a popular guy. He had a horde of female followers that we all dubbed fangirls, who all followed him around like lovesick puppies and would do anything to please him just because of his clan's name and status. Pretty sick if you ask me," Naruto told them, his distaste for such things evident in his tone. Genie and Meryl were stupefied as to why girls would do this. It seemed so foolish and infantile. To build up this mental ideal behind a guy only for the guy to turn out to be a real douchebag seemed really, really stupid. Denise knew of some of the younger priestesses that grouped around Melissa and their behavior matched that of the fangirls that Naruto described. That sort of blind adoration was dangerous. They let the conversation die down as Genie offered to prepare dinner since he caught the fish. She had grown to like the roasted fish that Naruto taught them to make over a fire. It was quick and easy prepare, not to mention that the taste wasn't half bad, either. After dinner was over, the women and girls all decided to go for a dip in the nearby stream, while Naruto wanted to meditate for a while and clear his mind. The blonde shinobi was sitting in the lotus position as he ran through his thoughts over the past 3 months since arriving in this world. It occurred to him that he never once tried to summon his toad friends. Would it even work? I wonder, he thought as he bit his thumb for some blood, swiped it on his opposite palm, and flipped through the necessary hand seal, and poured as much chakra into the jutsu as he could manage. "Fuchius no jutsu," he roared out as he slammed his palm down, causing a massive explosion of smoke fill the clearing he was in. The women and girls all heard and saw the explosion and knew that Naruto was in the area. Genie and Meryl immediately got dressed to go see if he was alright, but were stopped cold by the sight of the most massive creature they had ever seen in their lives. "Boy. Where the hell am I?" the massive toad bellowed out, looking around. Naruto, who was standing on its head, called out. "Oi, boss. I'm glad to see you." The toad couldn't believe whose voice he heard. "And Naruto Bozu?" Is that really you? Yep. You'd better believe it, Gamabunta. He yelled out happily. You little snot. We all thought that the Uchiha brat killed you. Do you have any idea how much people missed you? He told his summoner. Naruto was struck dumb by this. What? That can't be right, people always thought that I was just a screw-up, a worthless nobody. You can't serious, he whispered. Naruto then proceeded to tell him about where he was according to the Kyuubi and his new life there thus far. The Toad Oyabun responded with a tale of the funeral that Tsunade held for him and all of the people who attended. Your sensei ended up taking down the Uchiha brat and dragged him back to the village. Tsunade nearly went mad with grief when he told her that you were dead and she broke down on the spot. That pink-haired teammate of yours took it pretty hard, too. She still blames herself for what happened. The council let the Uchiha off light as usual and even tried to enforce a bridal program that would have forced many young women to bear his spawn. That Sakura girl, the Yamanaka girl, and the Hyuga heiresses were his targets, but the girls themselves all refused. They wanted you, kiddo. They all loved you, but figured that out a little too late. The blonde thought that he was too drained of chakra to hear him right. Hinata always acted funny around him, while Ino and Sakura were always yelling at him or belittling him. To hear that they loved him was almost too far-fetched to even begin to believe. The council next tried to prevent Tsunade from holding a funeral for you, but she had the backing from the shinobi clans. She also told your friends about the Kyuubi within you, but they didn't care about that. To them, you were as human as they were. Naruto was beginning to tear up from the news. They really did care, he choked out with a sad smile. Your funeral was attended by 2 daimyos, from Wave and from Snow. Koyuki Haim, he breathed. That's right. The real surprise was that the other 8 Jinchuriki all gathered to mourn you. They all called you their brother. Even the vessels from enemy villages came to see you off. Naruto was in awe. He had always wanted to meet others like himself since he found out about the Kyuubi and they all attended his funeral. Gamabunta continued the tale of what happened, even telling of Shino's gesture at his casket, which drew some tears from the women and girl listening nearby. It was one of the most beautiful gestures one could give at a funeral. The most important thing to know is that Tsunade loved you, kiddo. Like she would love a son, and she was even thinking of adopting you after the mission was over. She threatened the council with death if she wasn't allowed to hold a service for you. Naruto always entertained the idea of Tsunade being his mother. She was rough around the edges like him, had a quick temper like he did, and was crazy about Sake like he was with Raymond. He deeply cared for her, but thought that if she weren't associated with him, she would have a much easier time dealing with the village, so he let that dream go. Now, he's told that she loved him, too. That she wanted him to be her son and to have him by her side. The massive toad took a deep drag on his pipe and let it out. Oi, Gaki. I'm getting a little low on chakra and have to go now, but I'll tell everyone that you're alive and well here. I'll talk with Shima-sama and Fukasaku-sama to help work on a way to bring you back home to us. I really did miss you, kid. The old toad sniffled before disappearing in a colossal puff of smoke. Naruto landed in the middle of the clearing to sort through what he had been told. Finally, after failing to hold it in, he let out all of his emotions as he collapsed in a heap from mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion, dropping like a puppet with its strings cut. After Naruto fell, all 3 females rushed to his side, checking him for injuries and the like, but found him with a look of extreme sadness on his face and tears running down his whiskered cheeks in his sleep. Jeannie gently loaded him into her arms and carried her new student back to the campsite. Once there, Jeannie wrapped a blanket around the young shinobi and had him lean against her shoulder with her arm draped around him protectively, shutting her eyes to get some sleep herself. As Meryl closed her eyes to sleep, she pondered all that she had gleaned from the gigantic talking wallet. They never told or showed him that they cared until they believed he was dead. That's so sad, poor boy. She thought as she drifted off to sleep. Melissa's little groupies were chatting until they saw Denise sitting down at the base of a nearby tree, watching the blonde boy rest quietly. Why do you like that demon? Anna asked her. Denise's anger was piqued by that comment. Don't call him that. If you really knew anything, you wouldn't say such cruel things. The girl growled in a cold tone and a matching glare. I still can't believe that he attacked Miss Melissa like he did and that he peeped on her during her revealing ritual. What a pervert. Joan snorted. Yeah. What a creep. On top of all that, he's just a dirty orphan and a heartless killer. Lady Jenny just feels sorry for him, so she gave this team the job with good pay. Gannett added, pouring fuel on the proverbial fire. Denise had heard enough of their sneering and cruel comments. What would any of you know? If all dirty orphans are like Naruto, I'd rather be one too than one of the stuck-up nobility, like you. He's kind, sweet, brave, and many other wonderful things that I can't even begin to describe. I agree with Lady Jenny that he has the potential to become the greatest hero the world has ever known. I only wish that Miley had made him my hero. She snarled at them as she stormed off to where Meryl and Jeannie were. Melissa heard the commotion and came over to check. "Girls, what's going on here? You should be getting to sleep because we have a full day tomorrow," she inquired to the young girls. "Miss Melissa, why do you have to put up with that demon kid instead of your chosen hero?" Gannett asked of the senior priestess. "Yeah, why? Didn't you receive your hero yet?" Anna added. "I'm sure that your hero will slay that demon, Miss Melissa," Joan piped up. Melissa was at a loss. She didn't want to tell the girls that Naruto was her chosen hero. However, Denise knew the truth and the senior priestess didn't want her to tell anyone or it would sully her reputation. She would have to talk with the girl about that in the morning. The next morning, Naruto slowly regained his consciousness as he struggled to open his eyes and move his body. "Man, I was so tired. I forgot how much summoning takes out of me," he thought as he fought off a wave of nausea that hit him from the mild bout of chakra exhaustion he had. As he tried to sit upright, he noticed that he had a blanket draped over him, as well as an arm. He looked over to find Jeannie asleep against the same tree he was, pulling him to her slightly. He smiled softly at this as he remembered what he learned from Gamabunta the previous night. "Thanks, Jeannie-sensei," he whispered as he carefully extracted himself from her grasp and began the preparations for breakfast, more fish. Concentrating some chakra into his legs, he bolted off into the trees towards the creek nearby. Unknown to him, Meryl and Jeannie were both awake to hear him say that and pulled themselves up. "You're welcome, kiddo," Jeannie responded. She was developing a real soft spot for her young protege, suspiciously mother-like. Meryl had never seen Jeannie respond like this to anyone before and she had known the Ality swordswoman for a very long time. It actually warmed her heart to see the normally cold and aloof female warrior take someone under her wing like this, becoming a real teacher and role model. One that would fight to the death to protect him if need be, like a mother bear with her cub. She was harsh on him during their sword training, but he took it in stride and his skill improved faster than she could have dreamed possible. While he was still nowhere near her level, give him a couple of years and he would give her a real run for her money. She herself found a kindred spirit in the plucky boy with whom she shared a similarity in upbringings, both in the mean streets. Meryl's childhood was anything but pleasant, like his. She often had to steal her daily bread and do some other questionable things to survive from day to day. She was a natural-born scrapper from the get-go and was very quick-witted, a born survivor. Over the few months that the boy had been on her team, he had latched onto her as another surrogate big sister like that Isla girl and had to admit that she was growing fond of him as well. Even after a horrid life like his, he was still a bright and cheerful young man who seemed to breathe life into wherever he went, practically pulsating with light and energy. The rest of their party has awakened after a few moments later, rubbing the sleep from their eyes and getting them accustomed to the sunlight. Melissa walked up to the campfire that was still lit due to a fire spell that Naruto had cast on it the previous night, making her scowl as she remembered that she was still around. She looked around but couldn't find him. That stupid little brat leaving a group of women alone while they slept while he's out playing around with his little parlor tricks. She grumbled as she spotted a person that she wanted to talk with, Denise, who was slowly waking up. She briskly walked up to the 14-year-old girl and got her attention. "Oh, Miss Melissa. Is there something you need?" she asked sleepily. Melissa gave her an annoyed look but continued on with what she wanted to discuss. "As you already know, that dirty little street rat is supposed to be my hero, but I think it's a mistake. I don't want you to reveal this to anyone because if you do, the consequences won't be pleasant," the older priestess threatened. The way she saw it, her reputation was at stake and having a person who liked the boy would spell trouble for her. She wanted to keep a tight lid on who knew about this. Jeannie and Meryl, who were nearby and listening, scowled in disapproval of such an underhanded thing to do. The girl was the only sane and logical Miley acolyte in attendance, not to mention she had a wicked crush on Naruto, and there was nothing wrong with that. She cares more about her reputation than the well-being of her hero and charges Lady Jenny needs to do something about her. Meryl thought, with Jeannie thinking along the same lines. The other three apprentices were puzzled as to why Melissa was being overly harsh on Denise until they figured that she was being chewed out for being overly familiar with Naruto. Naruto came bounding back into the campsite with more fish over his shoulder and walked up to the fire to prepare them. Denise walked over to Naruto to offer her assistance. "Hey Naruto. I could help with that if you want," she offered. Naruto grinned at her. "Thanks, Denise-chan. I really appreciate it." She grabbed some sticks and skewered the fish and posted them near the fire as Naruto handed them to her after cleaning them. Soon, the aroma of the fish wafted through the camp and drew forth some grumbling from their stomachs. During the wait, Naruto got an idea and decided to try summoning again. He bit his thumb for blood, swiped it on his summoning hand and flipped through the hand seals. "Kuchius no jutsu," he bellowed as he slammed his hand to the ground, causing a plume of smoke to arise. Once the smoke dispersed, a small orange toad with a blue vest on was left. The toad took a look at his surroundings and gaped when it saw Naruto. "Bro. I knew you couldn't be dead. It cried happily as it hopped up and latched to Naruto's face, giving them the damnest impression that it was trying to hug him. Meryl, Jeannie and Denise weren't at all surprised when they heard the smaller toad talk due to the massive toad from the previous evening, but were curious to know just how he could do that. Kichi, come on, man. Cut that out. He yelled as he danced around, trying to pry the small amphibian from his face. Finally Naruto managed to dislodge his reptilian buddy from his face and brought him up to face level. Naruto, who's this? Meryl asked what was seemingly on everyone's minds. Oh. This is a good friend of mine and one of my toad summons, Gamma Kichi. Kichi, these are my friends, he announced as he made introductions. Boy bro, or any of these ni-chans you're a haha. He insinuated with his webbed pinky. Naruto blushed a bright red as he sputtered. No. It's not like that, he said as he explained to his toad friend what the situation was and was even invited along. Cool. I always wanted to do a little adventuring outside Myaboku Mountain. He replied. Hey Kichi, can you spit oil like the boss can? Naruto asked. Course I can. He replied. But let's go over there and try what Pervy Sage and your dad do when they team up. He suggested. Kichi's froggy eyes lit up. He idolized his father and would love to try something that he did. They walked over to the creekside as Naruto ran through the hand seals for a Kaiten jutsu. Kichi signaled that he was ready as Naruto called out the attack. Kaiten, Gameyu Enden. Just as Naruto breathed out a massive tongue of fire out onto the water, the small toad on his head spat out a stream of oil, making the flame grow to be almost 4 times bigger and no doubt hotter. A few trees on the other side of the banks were turned to ashes, the flames at them, not even slowly burning down. The women and girls were slack-jawed by the sheer destructive power of the attack. Melissa had never seen a fire spell that could even come close to what these two just did. Melissa had to admit that even thought she hated him, he could fight exceedingly well and was very powerful for being so young. The girls were awestruck at the sight. Wow. That was pretty neat. Denise exclaimed loudly. The other three were still staring at where the trees used to be, which were now smoldering ashes. What the hell was that? Joan asked her fellow trainees, to which she got no answer. This is what's called a summoning jutsu. It requires the user to sign a contract with the summoning creature with their own blood. This anchors the summons to you. Next, you have to earn the trust of the summons clan like you would a friend, and if they like you, they can be summoned to help you on in combat. Ichi here is still young, but he'll grow up to be really big like his dad, the toad boss Gamabunta, he told them as he recanted the tale of the first time he summoned the stubborn old toad and what he had to go through to get his cooperation. The first part had the girls gasping because he was thrown from a cliff to be given extra incentive to get it right. The next parts were quite humorous as he told them about how he had to stay on top of the giant amphibian's head while he tried to throw him off. Even the 3 naysaying girls silently cheered when he told them of how he succeeded in gaining Gamabunta's trust. They were impressed that someone just a little younger than they were was so capable and were beginning to rethink their opinions of him. Denise saw their reactions and grinned. It looks like they're getting the picture and are starting to think for themselves. Scratch 3 fangirls, good job, Naruto. Breakfast was eaten, the campsite broken down, and the party got themselves moving along towards the ruins that was their goal. Defiled ruins. The party had made it to the defiled ruins just after high noon, and the young apprentices got themselves ready to enter the ruins. Kichi was puzzled as to why they were hanging back near the entrance until Jeannie explained. The whole idea is to see if those young priestesses can handle the job or not. If things get too tough or dangerous, then we'll go in with them. The small toad nodded in understanding. I get it. You need to see what they can do under stress. The ninja do similar things where we're from. Meryl smirked a little. You know, you're actually pretty smart for a little guy. Kichi gave her a lopsided grin. You know it. We toads didn't get to where we are now by being dumb. They all turned their attention to the priestesses as they paused, just short of the steps leading to the ruin entrance. What was that? Gannet asked, frightened by the chill she and the other girls felt. As if to answer her question, many zombies arose from the ground to confront them. Alright, can anyone tell me what they are? Melissa quizzed the girls. Zombies. Denise answered nervously. That is correct. Now, as servants of Mylee, we must not be scared to face the undead. Now, please chant with me the holy words and repel this evil. She ordered. She raised her hands before her as she began to chant out a holy spell, with the rest of the trainees following suit. In the name of the war god, Mylee, submit to your destiny of death. They chanted as a pale band of light passed through the undead horde and caused them to disintegrate. Cool, Naruto whistled as he watched them in action. Suddenly, seemingly many times the number of undead came at them and they just couldn't handle them all. Naruto had seen enough and sprang into action with Gamakichi perched atop his head. Before the priestesses knew it, he was already in front of them protectively, weaving through his head seals and the toad puffing up. Kaiten, Gameyu Enden. With the same attack they saw earlier, Naruto and his toad companion had incinerated the entire horde in one massive blast of flames. Leaving both himself and the small toad slightly winded and tired from the chakra expenditure, requiring them to take a few moments to rest. Melissa wouldn't come out and say it aloud, but she was glad that he was there and did what he did. She wasn't sure that she would be able to handle that many and protect the girls without one or more sustaining significant injuries. I won't say it, but thanks Naruto. Okay, now that the undead here have been dealt with, we will proceed inside. If you would, please follow me, she started to command, but Naruto stopped her. If you don't mind, I'll send in some of my clones to scout for traps. If they find any, I'll know and be able to guide you through them, or Meryl and myself can disarm them. He offered. Meryl and Genie smiled at his logic. He was certainly becoming a first-rate adventurer and a good companion to have around. Had he learned from the best around? Meryl thought proudly. Melissa, I suggest listening to him. You can never tell what kind of nasty traps or dangers can be lurking here. Those clones of his can either trigger the traps intentionally and scout around to make sure this place is even safe to enter. Meryl suggested. She knew that Meryl knew what she was talking about, even if she didn't like how she was taking Naruto's side. Very well. She said stiffly as she had the trainees stand down, while Naruto used his favorite multi-purpose jutsu to create over 20 shadow clones, giving them orders to investigate the ruins and keep an eye out of hazards and traps. They waited outside for around 20 minutes to give the clones time to do their job and attempt to map the place out. One by one, the clones began to disperse and sent back information to the original. My clones are all finished and have all either dispelled themselves or were destroyed by traps in the undead. I have a pretty good idea of the layout of the first 2 levels and the traps in them, so if we stay on those 2 levels, we should be fine. He advised them. Genie nodded. Good work. Naruto, you and Meryl take the lead. Melissa, you and the girls stay in the middle while I'll bring up the rear. The tall warrior called out as they arranged themselves accordingly. Just before they entered the ruins, Naruto brought out the wand that Carwas had given him and cast a rudimentary light spell to light their path as he followed the path his cage Bunshin carved out as they made their way into a main chamber that the clones found. Naruto and Meryl had disarmed many traps that were still active, and Naruto even had the chance to disarm a magical trap that would have poisoned them all. The girls, minus Denise, were all having second thoughts about the young blonde shinobi that was currently leading them safely into the ruins and past the traps. Melissa had told them and the other younger apprentices about what a shinobi was, a killer for hire. That went against the very principles of what the Melee Order stood for and was very much unhero-like behavior. This led to many of the young apprentices who didn't know any better to hate and loathe the blonde boy. Many of the older priestesses who knew Naruto tried to convince them otherwise, but Melissa and a few other zealous order members had already done too much damage. From what they saw, Naruto was actually really nice and sociable and had many interesting stories to tell of people he knew back where he was from and their quirks, or of some of his missions and how they turned out. Some were funny, like when he told them of the missions to catch Tor the cat. Some were sad, like when Haku and Zabuza died and when the third Hokage was slain by Orochimaru. But all grabbed their attention, and from the way he told them the tales, they could tell that he wasn't lying and that he actually lived through those experiences. Denise had already heard many of these stories, but she still couldn't help but be jealous of that Sakura girl that was his teammate. He was a true-to-life hero who would fight heaven and hell for her, but she threw her affections away on a boy who couldn't even care less about anyone and had even betrayed their homeland to go with a murderer just for the selfish need to gain power. Even the other girls found themselves a little jealous that this girl had someone who would fight any odds to protect her. It was through this that they were beginning to learn that real heroes weren't the knights in shining armor on a white horse like Melissa believed. More than once, Lady Jenny told them that a true hero was one who could rise to valor, no matter the odds. Courage knew no social boundaries or status, that even the poorest person was capable of extreme courage, above and beyond the call of duty. They snapped out of their musings when the group came to a stop in the main atrium of the ruins. Alright, everyone watch your step, 2 of my clones bought it in here because the floor collapsed under them, he warned them until he heard a cracking underneath Melissa's feet. Suddenly, the floor gave way and she began to fall into a chasm, but Naruto dived in after her, causing Gamakichi to fall to the floor. Naruto. Melissa. Bro. Was the shared scream as the two fell further into the darkness. Naruto managed to catch up to Melissa and took hold of her while creating a batch of cage bunshin to break their fall. The gamble paid off as they hit the bottom of the chasm with only minor injuries. Naruto rolled over and began to stand up but noticed that Melissa was missing. Suddenly, he heard a scream come from a nearby corridor and knew instantly that it was her. Who else would be down here? He ran as fast as his legs could carry him and found that Melissa was being assailed by scores of undead. It seemed as if their numbers swelled as quickly as she could turn them, with her mental energies, the lifeblood of all magic, running dangerously low. Feeling her energy levels bottoming out, he rushed to her side, the blade that Genie had given him drawn, ready to do battle. What are you doing here? She screeched. Doing what needs to be done. I'll hack a path and my clones will try to carry you back up to where the girls are. He told her without taking his eyes off of the horde. I'm not going to thank you for this. She told him crossly. Decide. I know. Story of my life. Was his simple pained reply as he ran in to engage their opponents. This reply made her heart wrench for some unknown reason. She felt a twinge of guilt within her that she hadn't felt before. I've been nothing but mean and nasty to him, yet he still puts my life before his own. She thought until she was hoisted onto the shoulders of two clones. What are you doing? She yelled indignantly. Getting you out of here. Now shut up and hang on. They all shouted back in unison as they began to scale the walls leading back up to the main atrium. Back up top, the rest of the group was having similar problems. They had been ambushed by undead, but Genie had the situation under control. Even Gamakichi was contributing to the effort by covering them with his toad oil. Meryl saw what he was doing and threw one of her daggers against the stone floor at the feet of the zombies in such a manner as to make a spark, igniting the oil and incinerating the undead. Thanks for that, Kichi. Meryl thanked the small toad, to which he gave her a web-footed thumbs up. Without warning, out of the hole Naruto and Melissa fell into a small squad of Narutos carrying a shaken Melissa came running out of. They would have questioned how such a thing was possible, but they were learning to do the same thing. What happened down there? Where's Naruto? Genie asked them with worry. One of the clones fielded the response. The boss is still down there. He held off those undead bastards long enough to get Her Highness out of there. It responded, air quoting the Her Highness part. Back down in the chasm, Naruto was fighting for his life against a seemingly never-ending assault of zombies. He was using everything that Genie taught to him and for a while it was working and forcing them back. However, his success was short-lived as his blade snapped in two, leaving his ill-equipped to fend them off for much longer. Damn it. I can't keep this up much longer. Use my power. You know that you need it. Damn fine, Fox. Let's have it. But that command, the Kyuubi's chakra flooded his system and made him explode with power. Turning his sights on the zombies, he proceeded to rip them to shreds with his chakra claws. Any zombie that got close to him began to burn up from the intensity of the Bijuu's potent chakra. A few short minutes later, the wholesale zombie slaughter was over and he proceeded to run up the chasm wall on all fours like a fox. The priestesses all felt the wave of power washing over them and prepared for the worst. Genie and Meryl, however, recognized that power, how it felt, due to Naruto's training sharpening their senses to the point that they could vaguely feel chakra. A moment later a crimson blur shot out of the hole and landed before them in a cloud of dust. They all prepared themselves for a fight until the dust settled, revealing Naruto wrapped in the red chakra like a cloak and his wand in his teeth, which looked like it was burnt to a crisp. He was looking very feral with elongated fangs and claws, along with his once crystal blue eyes now slitted like an animal's being a burning crimson. The girls had never seen him like this before, but Denise wasn't frightened. The rest tried to approach him to check him over, but Gamakichi thought otherwise. Don't touch him when he's like this. It'll burn you if you do. Just let him calm down and show him that you aren't a threat, then he'll return to normal. I'm out of juice, so I'll be seeing all you Ni-chans later. He called out as he poofed from existence. True to his words, the crimson cloak around Naruto died down and left him to fall flat on his face in exhaustion, his breathing ragged but still steady and strong. Genie and Meryl gave each other a glance and then smiled at their young charge and teammate. The massive swordswoman walked over and gently hefted his small body onto her back as they began their trek back to Ofen, back home. What if Naruto X Melissa and My Hero Academia end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.